All right. Good evening, everybody. It is Friday night, and that means it's time for another edition of Heavy Metallurgy. Thank you for joining us and tuning in. We've got a pretty fun show lined up tonight. I think folks are going to enjoy it quite a bit. Let's get a few introductions taken care of. My name is Alan. I'm from the Let's Talk Metal channel, and I am here, as always, with my esteemed co-host, Mr. Marty. And I've got to mute another channel. Sorry, it's my first week fully back at work, so I'm a little dazed and confused tonight. There we go. Now the settings are correct. Marty, how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing great. How are you guys doing?
Good.
Darcy.
I don't know. Am I actually live?
You're live.
Me in this
You
time?
are live
No.
too. Yes, we've also
You're
got
way past the point of being introduced. You're just kind of part of the wallpaper now. So
I thought I was in the green room still by myself. Sorry.
no, good thing you weren't picking your nose
sitting
or
there, scratching.
Yeah.
And,
sticking up to scratch
There
your
we
nuts.
go. I'm doing great. You guys are good?
doing all right. Doing all right. I got the Oktoberfest beers are out, which is always good for me because I like those. So something tasty to go with our fun show this evening.
Well, I got a Marty special, and I was telling Marty early the old Canadian beer and clamato juice. Good stuff.
Nice.
Don't knock it until you've tried it.
That's right. That's great.
Good deal. Well, let's see, Marty, do we have any quick announcements we want to make before we talk about tonight's topic?
Nothing that y'all haven't heard before. We got a shirt. We got another one coming once the art's done, so stay tuned for that. We've got super chats are available if anybody wants to donate to the channel. I've also enabled super thanks. I don't know what the hell that means, or what it does, but it's something in the comments. But
okay, so if somebody wants to be brave and test out super thanks, we'll see what that does.
But and then we want to thank everybody again for last week. A lot of generous folks donated in the chat, and it was a lot of fun. We had a great time. And it all goes to help out the channel. Thanks so much. We appreciate all of you. Indeed. Whether you donate or not, doesn't matter. You don't even have to. But we're appreciative that you all stop by and hang out with us regardless week after week. And this is a special magical number 69 episode.
So we had to bring in the man with 6 strings and 9 lives.
Exactly.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for thinking of me, guys. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. See, now I'm all confused about this super thanks thing. What do you get if you do that? For some reason, I'm envisioning that you get like this giant box delivered to your house with a cake and a half naked Matt from the Dark Path pops out of it and gives you a big kiss or something.
I've talked to him about that. See if we can rent him.
What is a super thanks? It could be anything. It could be Matt in a box. It could be a boat. Don't know.
Well, in this case, it highlights your comment. You pay whatever you want. It highlights your comment, gives you an emoji. I don't know, dumb stuff. It's kind of dumb, but I enabled it anyway. What the hell,
Yeah.
We shall see. We shall see. So for tonight, we asked Darcy what he'd like to talk about, and Darcy said he had so much fun talking about a year in metal last time with us when we covered 1995 that he wanted to pick another year. So he said, absolutely, pick a year. And Darcy, what year did you pick for everybody this evening?
Well, I picked a very pivotal year in my metal journey, 1986.
Oh, yeah.
I was 17 years old, going on 18, December of that year. And yeah, super pivotal year. Hey, Billy, how are you? Yeah, super pivotal year. It was one of those years where the thrash just started coming in hardcore. I was able to, drive a ways to go to, bigger shows and we'll talk about it as we go. But I saw some of my most memorable shows that year. And a lot of like they say, the sports analogy, the turning point of the game for me, it was I was totally shocked at how many that I actually pulled from this year. I thought it would have been a little less, but it actually was quite a bit.
I'm sure we're going to have a lot of crossover, but I've got probably 5 hours worth of music to talk about here.
Oh yeah, easy.
There's a lot of good stuff. So, Marty, what's your kind of quick beginning point take on 1986?
This year, just going through the list, getting prepared for this episode, it was just mind blowing. Album after album after album that was so influential. Not only just in my metal development, but it's a testament to the quality of that year, because a lot of this shit I still listen to on the regular. These aren't nostalgia pieces. They're just artifacts that never really left my playlist over the years. Yeah, there might be some ebb and flow to that, but there's some stuff on here that just does not ever get old to me. And I was 15 in 1986. I wasn't driving yet. I was about to, but I wasn't driving yet. And I didn't have a ton of money, but between me and my friend Scott and a couple other buddies that were starting to get into this stuff, we all kind of live vicariously through each other's purchases, through allowance or working a little bit. You could maybe buy 2 or 3 tapes a month. That was it. Or if you routinely saved your lunch money, which I typically did, you could maybe get a tape a week, maybe 2 tapes a week if you're lucky. And it just, every single purchase I made from good old Camelot Music was a banger. And it's just an absolute mind-blowing, world-sculpting, couldn't devour this shit fast enough. I just wanted more and more and more. And everything was just so exciting. I was transitioning out of, hard rock, stuff like Kiss and Ratt and Cinderella or Dio, and moving into, I think I heard the year before Ride the Lightning. Stuff like that really got me going into the thrash world. So this is the hotbed of thrash. This is where shit was getting exciting and blowing up. The Big Four were putting out some very influential albums. They hadn't quite succumbed to being tired and boring. It was just exciting times. What about you, Alan?
86, for me is a little early. Wasn't, into, metal or anything by that point. Trying to think, 86 for me would have been like around 5th or 6th grade. So, maybe a couple of kids were starting to check out some of the more, commercial friendly stuff by then. But some folks are already mentioning it in the chat. And as y'all have said, 86 is a really deep year.
Oh boy.
High quality classic heavy metal releases. A lot of times you see it cited as the best year for heavy metal album releases. And folks may agree or disagree with that, but you can't argue that there's a very deep roster of top stuff. You're absolutely right that it's a big year for thrash. We're going to see that for sure. It's worth pointing out, now we probably won't go deep on this end of things, but it's also a pretty huge year for the other end of the spectrum. You have some very big like hair / glam metal albums that drop in 1986 as well. Stuff like, and again, I'm just going to reel these off for context. Bon Jovi has Slippery When Wet.
Huge album.
Yes, Poison has their first one, Look What the Cat Dragged In. So there, Ash, I told you, we are going to get Poison mentioned briefly. Europe does The Final Countdown, which is still with us all this time later.
All you gotta do is say that and it's in my head.
Striper, hits big with, To Hell with the Devil. There's one more big hair one that I will talk about in a little detail later on, but this is really the point where you were getting 2 very solid camps of metal established as popular in the United States in a way that, thrash is, there for the quote unquote real metal heads, and, Bon Jovi and Poison and that kind of stuff, is locked in, at the top of the charts for, the FM radio, MTV, the Stewarts of the Beavis and Butthead world have those bands to cling on to. So, it's a little funny too, because it also means it's around this time where, some of the more traditional metal stylings that had been popular early in the decade start, losing some ground in popularity, because folks are going towards, either the glammy stuff or the thrashy stuff. And some of those more traditional bands start to lose their footing. You don't see those bands as popular maybe as they were in 82, 83, 84. That style is starting to sound a little dated. There's still some good releases. Not saying that. It's just that, from this point forward, you see less and less of that stuff kind of dominating the heavy metal landscape. Again, at least in the United States for the rest of the 80s. But yeah, it's a little early for me to be into heavy music, so I had to work back to 1986, once I got a little bit older.
Another thing I would add to, talking about, how these albums are still remain in my playlist and all of our playlists, I'm sure. It's kind of a testament to metal. I mean, I'm sure people that are big country fans. I mean, obviously there's old country, pop music fans. I don't know how you quantify that, but metal, the old stuff is still important today. It's just as relevant. It sometimes some bands sound dated, but a lot of this stuff still sounds fresh and true. I mean, some of these bands are still at it, which is, again, another testament to what they're doing. But yeah, I mean, metal remains very much influenced by its past, by the forefathers. And that makes it, if you're just a young guy, say you're 15 now, just getting into metal, you've got a lot of work to do, a lot of homework to do. Granted, it's way easier now with the internet, via Spotify, YouTube, file sharing, all that crap. It's a lot easier to educate yourself quickly, but a lot of decades here of some great shit that really shouldn't be skipped over. Really shouldn't be.
No. And that's the thing is, I often thought about, would I want this day and age of everything just boom right at, I wouldn't trade my experience for the world. And I know, Alan, you brought me in to bring the average age up a little bit today. So, but I think I'm the old guy in the room, but I would say probably 90% of what I'll show today. I mean, there's a few albums that crept in later on, even in my YouTube experiences of people said, did you hear, maybe like an album like Crimson Glory. I wasn't that familiar with it back in the day. I am now. But for the most part, I'd say 90% of this, I could literally pop in and song one just launches the whole album in my head. If somebody changed the track listing on these, I would know, because I know in my mind what you guys all know that. Everybody that's watching knows that. Yep. And that's why and like you said, Marty, it's still relevant. Lots of this stuff I just love it. I just pop it in and all those memories come flooding back. And that goes for a lot of years. But again, 1986, pretty special year.
Absolutely. I mean, I've got, like I'll be showing, well, I'm sure one of us will, but I've got it in my stack, Kreator's Pleasure to Kill. I had the tape. I bought pretty much just tapes back then. It had a blemish on one of the songs that played on both sides. And I hear it, even when I listen to the CD or the record, that blemish is ingrained in my head. I hear it when the song starts up. I hear that sound, and it just, when it's not there, it freaks me out on the CD, But
yeah.
This is amazing how, I mean, we were like sponges then, every note, every phrase. Back then I was reading the lyrics. I cared. And, it just, you get a tape and you just devoured it endlessly, even if you didn't like it. That was one cool thing about back in the good old days. You bought a tape, saved up your hard-earned money, you bought a tape, and if you didn't like it, you listened to it still 20 times. And usually by the end, you're thinking, oh, this is not so bad. You end up getting past the things that may have initially bothered you, unless it really fucking sucked.
Or you develop Stockholm syndrome and you're just like, yeah, this is awesome.
This is awesome. Yep.
This Vinnie Vincent tape rules. It's so heavy.
Right. But yeah, we might as well get going because we've got a lot of ground to cover. And Darcy, I think, as you know, you're going to be our flagship discussing person
Guest
tonight.
Always goes first. Absolutely.
Always first.
I was thinking what I was going to start off with, but I kind of changed my mind. I'm definitely going to show some Canadian content, but I still have a lot of my original cassettes left. So I pulled a few today to show, and cassettes, CDs, vinyl, whatever. But I got to see WASP this year. This is their third album, Inside the Electric Circus. You know, if you know the band and you love WASP, I mean, the first 4 albums are what I love and what I remember the most. But yeah, I got to see them this year. I also got to see them in 1984, you know, with the lineup with Randy Piper and Chris Holmes. And then I got to see them when Blackie went back on guitar and they brought in Johnny Rod on bass. And, you know, I thought production-wise, this was, I'm not going to say a step back from The Last Command, but it was way less polished. But it's got some great songs. And it's just, you know what, I'm going to say back in the day, because I'm 53 years old. You just learned every song. You just played it over and over in your car, cruising around. You know, you got a couple of, we have probably 2 cover tracks on here, or at least one. I Don't Need No Doctor, but you remember the first single, 95 Nasty.
Yep.
Oh, there is 2 covers on here. There's a cover, Easy Living's on this one also.
Oh,
but
sure.
yeah, great album, Shoot from the Hip. You know, this was Blackie's got all the perverted vocal or lyrics and shit like that. And you got Chris Holmes has a great guitar tone. I always remember that. Yeah, I got to see these guys on, if you know their live album, Live in the Raw. So I kind of got to see that tour with in probably 1987. So it was 6 months or half a year after this album was released. But yeah, this is a pretty special album for me in '86 for sure.
Must be nice living around a city that actually got tours coming through it. Cause yeah, I didn't start until I graduated high school making the trek down south to see bands. Half the time I didn't hear about the shows until after they came through. So.
Well, for me, it was always where I lived back then. It was always at least an hour and a half drive, no matter what. Where I lived, there was no shows. You had to travel. But
right.
Yeah, definitely a great album.
All right. Good start to the show. Alan, what do you got to follow that up?
I'm just going to start kind of at the top of the heap because there's no reason talking around this album. Master of Puppets. For a lot of people, it's Metallica at the height, and for a lot of people, it's thrash metal. It's the pinnacle or close to, at least for Bay Area thrash. Metallica had been growing in popularity, more and more shows, bigger and bigger shows, and you're just going from strength to strength. And even though we've all heard it 1,000 times, and I'll admit I'm a little burned out on the album, I don't go back and play it a ton anymore. Just like you said, Darcy, you hear a few notes of it and I know the album inside and out. I don't really need to hear it, but nevertheless, I mean, it is a milestone in thrash metal for all years, not just 1986. Metallica, didn't have many good albums left in them after this one, but what they did for heavy metal and thrash metal over the course of the first 4 albums, at least, they earned their stripes. They can put out all the crap they want to, and they still, have to be given recognition for everything they did for American heavy metal. It's one of the albums that every metalhead has to hear, has to know, even if you're not the biggest Metallica fan.
Man, I obsessed over that tape. Never left my Walkman. I remember we had a dog out in a kennel, cleaning dog shit, raking dog shit up, listening to that in the headphones. Wherever my parents went in the car I'm riding with, I had it in my headphones. Yep. I mean, I came in, someone mentioned they came in with Lightning too. That was my first Metallica, was Ride the Lightning. But Master of Puppets may have at the time surpassed it. I mean, I loved Ride the Lightning. That might be my favorite early Metallica album, but Master of Puppets is very influential of opening my mind to heavier music. It just is. They were the linchpin that took me out of the Kiss and the Ratt and all the other stuff and got me going in a thrashier, heavier direction. And man, so much fucking fun. So exciting. Such a great time.
Yeah, I gotta add in. I alluded to it earlier. The that old sports adage of the turning point. That was a huge turning point for me. I've shown this before. I've saved it ever since. This is my ticket stub to. So this concert was December 15th, 1986. It was only 3 months after Cliff had passed away. If you're familiar with Canada or capital city of Saskatchewan, Saskatoon, Saskatchewan, not the capital city, sorry, the biggest city in Saskatchewan. I got to see Metallica. Metal Church opened for them, and that was it. I was hook, line, sinker. I guess the biggest word that comes to my mind, aggressive. It was just so aggressive. And you know what? I'm not really an aggressive person by nature, but it was just a way for me to, just pour it all out. And I mean, we were going hard, headbanging. I mean, you know how Hatfield, kind of leaned back and had his mic and his knees were all bent and his Gibson Explorer was kind of on his lap back then. The way he played, it was just unbelievable. I'll never forget it. And I'm kind of glad these old ticket stubs came in handy, so
that's really cool.
Just a memorable album for sure.
Collector is just another descriptive term for hoarder. Just ask my wife.
Sign me up. I know.
Yeah. I see a lot of folks in the chat, mention that, they might prefer, Ride the Lightning or Kill 'Em All. And I get that. Again, I think, for a lot of us, Master Puppets is, has, maybe worn out its stay just a little bit, but it really, all of those early Metallica albums, there's a reason the band became legendary. It's not just because they sold 40 million copies of, some pop-friendly Black album years later. These albums really are, carved, in the 10 commandments of heavy metal with good reason.
Yeah.
I would actually listen to Master a lot more if every time I didn't get in the car, Sirius XM on the 3 channels that play heavier music always has something from Master Puppets on. So, I mean,
yeah, you can hear them on the radio pretty easy for, lots of those tunes. You're right, Marty.
Yep.
But Ride the Lightning is my personal favorite Metallica album, but Master is just right underneath, right there. So,
yeah, can't sell any of them short at all. All right, Marty, what are you going to start out with tonight?
All right, well, I'm going to turn in my metal card on this one, but I don't care. I figured I would start kind of like the old, Darcy said, very transitional year for me.
Yeah.
I still enjoyed some hard rock stuff, and this album, Invasion of Your Privacy, I love this Ratt album. I love it. I love the atmosphere of it. I love the songs. There's not a bad song on here. I really liked Out of the Cellar, but this is my favorite Ratt album. I like Dancing Undercover a lot too. They're just a great band, and they didn't really strike me as a full, even though the look and feel of it is very hair metal, these guys were just a little more hard rock than shit like Poison and, other bands like that. I also liked Cinderella's Night Songs too during this time, but man, I listened to this a lot, but when you had stuff like Metal Church and Metallica in the Walkman, this was starting to slowly phase out for me at the time. But I could still go back to this. I picked this up at a record show cheap, and I'm glad I did. It's been awesome to spin it again. I love it. It's good stuff. They were a great band, but that that's where there's like this stew of different hard rock and metal styles all starting to come together here, and one saluting the other as they passed off into the pasture.
Yeah, and that album cover was okay for a teenage boy too, I'll tell you.
Oh, yeah, I looked at it a lot. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
It speaks to me. I don't know what it is.
The only album that's ever been in your bathroom with you. Yeah, okay. Okay.
Mom, have you seen my Ratt album? It's next to the toilet.
J card stuck together. Why won't it open, Mom? Anyway, Darcy, you're back.
Bunch of perverts, eh? Jesus. Okay,
it is our 69th episode, everybody. So there you go.
Yeah.
Marty, do you remember the cover model's name? I know she was a Playmate, but I don't.
Well, I know Tawny Katane was on Out of the Cellar. I don't know.
I don't remember if she's on that one or if it's a different. I want to say
I can tell you. Else. Hold on one second.
Yeah.
You know what?
Since we went there, we might as well work it out.
Metal Mickey sent me a picture of that girl on that cover, but her now. Put it this way: life wasn't kind to her. Okay.
No, I've seen the same picture, and it's not.
Yeah.
Time fucks us all up a little bit. You go ahead, Darcy. I'll come back if I find it. The text is awful small for these old eyes.
I'm gonna go with one of my absolute favorite albums from 1986. We might as well just throw it out there too. It's not thrash, but it is one of my absolute favorites. Queensrÿche, Rage for Order. Progressive, whatever it was, but this is my second favorite Queensrÿche album. The Warning is my favorite album, but this one would be just like neck and neck. I don't know. I just have nothing bad to say about this album. Even the cover song is, I forget who did that originally, but
yeah, I always forget too.
I forget. It was a female artist, but for I Want to Get Close to You, it was so unique. And you know what? Jeff's vocals, the whole band, they had their own sound. Basically a kind of a continuation of The Warning, but even turn it up another notch on the progressive, some technical stuff on here, but definitely top 5 for me for sure for 1986. Queensrÿche, Rage for Order, for sure.
Yeah, the cover song's from someone, DeBello.
Yeah, DeBello. Yeah,
DeBello. Right. Yeah, okay. Yeah, it's someone I'm not familiar with, so I never do remember it.
I'd say Queensrÿche does a better job. Like they made it their own song for sure. But yeah, I love this album. I actually bought it on release day in 1986. Off the strength of The Warning. And it goes all the way back to me first hearing the EP, the Queen of the Reich, that song. It was kind of just like something I never heard before, and I'm not going to say this is the last best Queensrÿche album because there's at least one more after this, but this is
there's a couple.
If you're not familiar, if you're a young guy just getting into some Queensrÿche, this is somewhere where I would point you to this album immediately.
The model on the cover of Invasion of Your Privacy is Mariana Gravata.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay. Yep. Yeah, I knew she was a playmate back in the day, but I would not have remembered the name. Good deal. But yeah, definitely got to agree, Darcy. Rage for Order. I think it is my favorite Queensrÿche album. Warning and it are very, very close to each other, and Mindcrime's not far behind that at all. But yeah, Rage for Order is just so well put together. It stands out from everything else other people were doing. You know, this was a band that was you could tell at this point, you know, they were really going to lead the way, you know, into a new and very interesting path. You know, this was a band that wasn't going to go full, you know, Hairspray, and they weren't going to go full thrash or anything. They had another destiny ahead of them, and it really starts to show with this album even more than the previous two releases. The cover song is great. All the songs just have their own character. You know, the band pictures on the back, the weird photo shoot with them going for kind of, you know, the Japanese, what is it called, like K style, you know, poses and hair, and you know,
Jeff's hair was all yeah, definitely.
Yeah, about the album, just, you know, it really signals that this is going to be, you know, a very unique and definitive album. That, you know, the band, if they hadn't by this point, you know, The Warning's great, but, you know, this album really cements that, you know, they've staked their ground, and they're going to rule it. And yeah, they're still at it in one form or another. But yeah, excellent album for sure.
All right, Professor Steele, enlighten us with your next pick.
I'm just going to keep pushing some of the big buttons for now because, like you said, Marty, the big four are trying out some, you know, big stuff. Sure. There's no point in pretending it's not there or burying the lead. So,
oh yeah, there we go.
Probably my favorite Megadeth album. I'll just say it up front. I know a lot of people prefer, yep. Some people prefer Killing. Some people like, you know, Rust in Peace, which is a riff, you know, tastic album. But this album just, you know, has everything I want from Megadeth. They still sound very hungry, very angry, very strung out, fucked up, jaded. chromium dioxide, has, Phillips described it, this is the era of Megadeth, and, they sound scary. They sound like they will just stick a broken bottle in your backs, so they can steal your wallet to pay for their Coke for the night, kind of band. Later on, once they get cleaned up and all, they lose that edge. They still made some good albums, but this really, is just, nasty savage. Yeah, there's some, the cover song here, of course, is a problem, but that's what the skip button is for.
They put it in the right place, though. I mean,
it is very, it's out of the way. But I mean, so many good songs with, My Last Words is, killer, Black Friday, Peace Cells, of course, is great. Devil's Island, I love. Pretty much the whole album is just, really great. It's iconic, cover, iconic band. It's, the definitive Megadeth, lineup for me. They sound, this is when they could sound, really interesting, really innovative, and really heavy all at the same time. So, we're, out of the big four, we've talked about two of them so far, and in both cases, it's iconic albums from both of them.
100%. I mean that Megadeth, that is my. I don't know if anybody's done videos on best closing track ever. My Last Words is
great
my
fucking
favorite
song.
Closing track.
That's
when it came
point,
to
Darcy.
the part where he would go, "Die," I would just crank it so loud my walls would shake. I just loved it, and you guys have all seen the video for Wake Up Dead. That was one of those turning points for me too. I was just like, that middle part. I mean, there's very few lyrics in that actual song. It's just a bunch of headbanging, and it was just like, you're just going with it. And I would play that video over and over. I recorded on the old VHS tape and rewind, play. Oh yeah, great album.
And Rick mentioned it, but The Conjuring, another great fucking song. Bad Omen. There is just
Devil's Island.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a
Devil's
little
Island's
sick
a
of Peace
rager.
Cells at this point, and Wake Up Dead, but God, there's such great fucking song. And Peace Cells is a very unique song, very atypical song, and it was just cool,
Yeah, one of the most iconic bass riffs you're ever gonna hear, right?
Yep, absolutely.
Yep.
All right,
your turn, Marty.
Well, I'm going to still be sticking in the hard rock metal arena here, and you really can't slip through. I know Alan's not high on Alan's favorite list, but
that's okay. It's a huge one for a lot of folks.
This is my favorite Bruce album. It just is. It's I've talked about it ad nauseum on here about the atmosphere of this record. The guitar synths they did it right. Where Judas Priest took the guitar synths a little too pedestrian, I think they took it in a poppy direction, but Maiden made it atmospheric and just really enchanting. You got Stranger in a Strange Land, Somewhere in Time, Wasted Years. What a great fucking song, man. Lyrically, everything. Great song. The Loneliness of a Long Distance Runner, just a driving, awesome. Where the music, where Bruce wrote the lyrics to fit the driving nature of the music. Awesome. World-class artwork, everything on this, other than, I'll say it. Heaven Can Wait. I hate the chorus. Other than that, it's a good song. And it's just, how can you, even, it doesn't matter if thrash or death metal or black metal, whatever era, whatever genre is coming up in popularity, Maiden is the anchor, man. They're the one you keep coming back to. You look out in the middle of a lake, you see one of those swimming platforms floating on some barrels. That's Maiden.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter how deep it is, as long as that swimming platform is there, it's a Maiden album. And other than now, I'm not a big fan of the new shit, but
yeah, I still got my little cassette here. Still got my little cassette from release day. I mean, who didn't stare at this cover for hours and still find something different? But and sorry for jumping in, Marty, but you just got me excited about this album. It's a lot of people don't know that Bruce pretty much sat out that whole album, really. Adrian Smith, him and Harris pretty much wrote this whole album, but a song like Stranger in a Strange Land, which is basically Adrian Smith's doing. I mean, it's so genius. I just love it. You love the cover. You love that. Oh, now. And I know you guys probably did the same. It's like, okay, what's Eddie up to now? Okay, he had a lobotomy. Now he's an Egyptian guy. Now he's in space. It was, one continuous story after another. But yeah, just such a solid album.
Oh yeah, absolutely killer. All right, Darcy.
All right, I'm back.
Yep, you're back.
Yeah, and sorry for jumping in, but
no, that's what we're here for, to have a discussion. We're all good. Jump in whenever you want.
Well, I'm gonna go with some Canadian content, and you're probably familiar with some of the big four of thrash here in Canada, but this is one of my favorite bands. Maybe not one of my favorite albums by them, but it still came out in '86. This is Razor, Malicious Intent.
Great album.
Yeah, tough to follow up Evil Invaders. Evil Invaders was my introduction to Razor. And again, one of those videos that I, play, record, rewind, play over and over. I mean, Evil Invaders, the song was like nothing I ever heard before. The vocals were guttural, and I just love Sheepdog anyways. But this was the follow-up. Not quite as good, but man, this has got some killer tracks. If you only check out one, check out Tear Me to Pieces. Sheepdog screams are some of the best that you will ever hear in metal.
Oh yeah.
You know what, Dave Carlo, what a guitar player. And if you follow the band, you know what, the guy's going through some tough times, some family things, and trying to keep Razor going. And they got a brand new album coming out on September 23rd called Cycle of Contempt. Go out and check it out. I am a big advocate for these guys. If you've never heard albums like Evil Invaders or what else we got? Now I'm losing my thought on the other one, but Violent Restitution.
Yeah.
Probably one of my favorite thrash albums of all time. But yeah, check this one out. This is '86. These are the years where they're banging one out every year, right? Like one or two. 86, 87, 88 type of stuff. So yeah, that's my pick. Razor, Malicious Intent.
Yep.
Banging one out without the use of a Ratt album cover, mind you.
Yeah.
I don't know whose fingernails were those.
Yeah, could be her.
Marianne, step away from the saw. Yeah, Razor, very cool band. That's the one Razor album I've actually never heard.
That's good.
Somehow I've always I never come across it, and it didn't seem to get reissued when a bunch of the other ones did a year or two ago. So Malicious Intent's the one kind of hole in my Razor knowledge.
Yeah, I'd say, but if anybody is into thrash and they haven't heard Violent Restitution, you're missing out. You really are missing out on one of the finest thrash albums ever made.
Yeah, Violent Restitution is really fun. It's worth it for you. It's the first couple of songs alone when he does that just insane opening scream going into hypertension. That's just that blew me away the first time I heard it, and still does.
All right, Alan.
Okay, I'm on a track, and I'm just going to stay there.
Here we go. I know what's coming.
Metallica, Megadeth.
I'm just gonna grab it. Yeah.
Slayer.
I put it on top because I knew you were going there.
I'm just following the thread to its logical end. To Rain in Blood. For a lot of folks, this is one of the most definitive extreme metal albums ever made.
It's so good.
It's just for a lot of folks, they consider it the ultimate in terms of just speed thrash, vicious
riffs.
The riffs, just the evil barking vocals. It's it's the album. Above all albums, Slayer's got a lot of great albums. They actually probably have more good albums than any of the other big four bands. But still, for most folks, there can only be one that you rank on top. And for a lot of folks, this is it. After this, I think it's telling that Slayer didn't even try to top this or match this. That they decided to do something very different for the follow-up album.
Yeah.
Yes, they slowed it for the first time. They really went slow and creepy, which I like. I like South of Heaven quite a bit. I know some folks do not care for that album. I was
pissed when I bought that, to be honest. I ended up liking it, but I remember getting it and all excited and put it on. I'm like, oh, what happened? Slow?
Yeah, I can very much get that for folks that had been following Slayer up to that point. For me, that wasn't a thing because I was hearing Slayer out of order, after the fact. For me, Rain in Blood, it is not one I play very often. I usually reach for some of the other ones, but yeah, there's no denying its place right alongside Puppets and Peace Cells. These 3 albums alone, you already have 1986 in the conversation as one of the most iconic years for heavy metal. You throw in, Queensrÿche's Rage for Order and some of the other ones we're talking about, and we're not even, we're barely, 40 minutes in, and we're already making a strong case for this year, being
one of the
unsurpassed in terms of top-notch metal.
Yeah, absolutely. Just you know what, guys? Back in the day, I was almost, I'm not going to say scared to listen to it, but it was, it kept me, I don't know how to describe it, but I mean, and lyrically, you know what sunk me, or what caught me on this one was I was reading along with the lyrics, and I think it was the song Piece by Piece. He's like ripping your flesh, gouging your eyes, tearing limb from limb, and then this it just says, okay, I'm buying that. No problem. I want that. But yeah,
Criminally Insane, I have yet only just begun to take your fucking life. My mom walked in, Marty, dinner time, take your fucking life. And she looked at me, she went, nice, son, real nice. I'm like,
Marty, why can't you be like those other nice boys down the street and just obsess over the Ratt albums?
But just what a track listing. I mean, Postmortem right into Raining Blood. It's just like,
oh, genius.
And what was this, Mark? What was this, Alan? 33 minutes, maybe 30.
It was under 30 minutes. It's like 27 or 20.
I think it's like
minutes.
29 and change. I'll check real quick, but yeah, it's barely a half hour, if that.
It was just that feedback and the iconic.
Oh yeah.
Before the beginning of Raining Blood. Oh my God.
Yep.
Every song on here is a fucking ripper. It is just a great, great, great album.
All right, the mothership says it clocks in at 28 minutes and 59 seconds, and that's with the closing song being over 4 minutes.
Yeah.
And Angel of Death is almost 5 minutes. So those 2 songs take up a third of the album. And so everything else in between, it's 2 minutes and 2 seconds, 1 minute 42 seconds, 250, 255, 222, 212, 223, and 327. That's one of the other things about this album. It all just hits you so fast over and over and over.
And I personally think it still holds up. People that say it was overrated or is overrated, I just can't agree with it. I just think it was so unique, and it was on the outside looking in. Like, I mean, there's nobody like Slayer. Like, yes, you had the heavy bands like Metallica and Megadeth, but Slayer just took it a little step further, in my opinion, for sure.
Yeah, definitely so. If as far as American bands at the time, Slayer was probably the most intense thing going. I guess you can make a case for some of the German thrash bands being
for sure
on that same level, but for American, Slayer was always, you're right, Darcy. They were always a little more vicious, a little scarier, a little more extreme than anything else, on the American thrash scene, at least among the biggest bands.
Absolute scathing album. It cemented them, as icons for sure. I mean, that one and Show No Mercy are my 2 favorite Slayer records. Show No Mercy sounds nothing like the rest of their catalog, but man, the riffs on it are so good and the songs are so good.
Yeah,
it's a fantastic album.
I love Show No Mercy too.
All right. Well, I'm going to skate just outside of the Big Four, a band that early on could have been in the Big Four, I think, maybe because of they were on the same label as Metallica. That's Metal Church, The Dark.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
This is David Wayne's last album with the band the first time. And my God, this is another one of those albums that I listened to 10 million times. Remember the tape in my Sony Walkman over and over and over again. I just love the songs. I love Dave's vocals on this. I love the songwriting. Obviously, Watch the Children Pray was the big MTV video that played a lot. They got a lot of coverage. This band was really starting to be projected into a very big realm of popularity for sure. And then they changed vocalists, which I liked his vocals. I liked at the time I didn't. Now I do. At the time when Blessing in Disguise came out, I was like, what the fuck is this? I mean, it was a definite change a little bit in style, but this and the first album are absolutely fantastic. I mean, you've all heard it. It's amazing. Great song. Ton of bricks. Exactly, Ryan. Method to Your Madness. Love that song. Such an emotive, great song.
Start the Fire. That's my favorite.
Start the Fire.
Yep.
Line of Death. I love that song.
Burial at Sea. Great song.
There is not
Burial
a
at
bad song
Sea
on
is
here.
really, really good.
Classic. Eternal classic album. I love The Dark.
Yep. Yeah. If The Dark has one little knock against it, because I've been playing it again a bunch lately, if it's got one little knock against it, the band's lyrics are not always the best. They're really good on some songs like Method to Your Madness. There are some songs where they're really tripping over themselves to get words to fit into lines and stuff. But yeah, it's forgivable. But you know, it's compared to some of their contemporaries, they weren't quite as good at the wordsmithing.
Where do you guys stand on thrashability for Metal Church? I always have stood by the first two albums have some thrashability in it. And actually, when I told you guys I got to see Metallica in '86, Metal Church opened for them. So that was my first exposure to Metal Church, was in '86 on the Dark album, and I never heard their masterpiece of a first album at that point either. But where do you guys see where do you put them? Are they thrash? Are they power metal?
US power metal for me. They're not thrash. They really, especially on the Dark, they've got some elements that lean that way, but they never really struck me as a full-on thrash band. But they were lumped in with that easily because, you know, they're friends with Metallica. You know, they were definitely they deserve to be in that field. But I mean, especially the first album to me is a power metal album, not like, you know, we've talked about this before, but not like a European power metal, but a US power metal band. But
yeah, I usually think of them as you know a traditional metal band, you know, the Judas Priest and Iron Maiden, you know, kind of sphere. You're right, Darcy. You know, they have, you know, there are times they definitely are kind of, you know, leaning towards thrash, but they never struck me as a thrash band. And it was funny because they were often, you know, people tried to bill them as a thrash band a lot of times.
I think
and so. I remember hearing them the first time and thinking, no, this isn't what I, you know, because I had to buy it blind. I had never heard the band, but I wanted to, and listen to it. Just like, this is not really thrash metal. It's good. I like it. But yeah, it was one of the first times I was like, I think this is being labeled a little bit wrong.
Well, and by time the Blessing in Disguise came out and the Human Factor, it was non-negotiable. You know, they were just power metal then, like US power metal based, and did a good job. I love Mike Howe too. I loved him in I have that Heretic album too.
He was good with Heretic.
I forget what year that one came out. It probably would have came out I would say 88, 87 before he joined Metal Church, because you know, even
that's a good question.
And like Marty said, you know, here's Blessing in Disguise. What the fuck is this? You know, and it took 3 years, and back then 3 years for an album was an eternity.
Yeah.
You know, you're like, well, where are these guys? And then they came back with, you know, kind of the, you know, what was the first single? Fake Healer. You know, it was very powerful.
Oh, it was? I thought Badlands was the first sing. I remember that video being the first one I saw.
Yeah, one of the two. They're both the singles for sure, but The Dark is it's way up there for me for sure too.
Oh, yeah.
So.
Yeah. And you're right, Darcy. Breaking Point from Heretic was 1988.
Yeah, if people out there have never heard that album and you like Mike Howe, go get that album. It's fantastic.
And if you like Mike Howe, the last two Metal Church albums were both very good. What is it, 9 and what the hell's the name of the last
11 and where are we? Damned If You Do.
Yeah, that's a great fucking. There's some great songs on that album. I was surprised how much it was the best album they've done. In ages, and I like the one before it. Yeah, it's a great record.
I hope they continue. Actually, you know, I was thinking because he hooked up with Kurt Vanderhoof hooked up with Todd Michael Hall for his solo album, and you guys know Todd Michael Hall from Riot 5, or Riot V, whatever they're called. But I thought, man, that guy's got the range to jump in and keep Metal Church going. As much as I'd like to see a guy like Todd LaTorre jump in there, but he's not gonna. He's happy with Queensrÿche and his solo album.
He's doing a good job in Queensrÿche too.
He really is. But I guess anybody named Todd out there that's free, Metal Church, keep them going because they're a great band.
Absolutely. And you're back, Darcy.
Okay. I don't know if I coined the phrase, but I certainly do say it a lot on my channel, and that's thrashterpiece.
You did not coin the phrase. You did not. It was used back in the day in ads and stuff yeah.
Well, good. I'm glad. I probably will owe somebody some money for saying it.
Great. Gonna get sued.
Here's one of my favorites from 1986. Flotsam and Jetsam, Doomsday for the Deceiver.
Yep.
You got your cassette there. I do have my Bonsai.
My OG cassette. Yep.
My Bonsai cassette too, but this is a definite thrasher piece. And if you guys, a few of you out there have watched my channel, I'm a pretty big Flots fan. I just did an updated ranking of their albums. And I've said this is a band that is just so much more than Jason Newsted, but Jason happens to be on this album. He pretty much wrote the whole thing. Probably
it's their best album.
Not for me personally, but No Place for Disgrace is, but that's a good album too. Close to being, they're neck and neck. But again, if you've never given Flotsam and Jetsam a chance, I'm going to say any track on here, Hammerhead, Iron Tears, Desecrator. And it's funny, they have a song on here called Fade to Black. And so does Metallica. They're kind of two different songs for sure. But, the writing was on the wall. Jason was headed to Metallica later
where his bass lines faded to black on his lead-off release with them.
But I don't know where this one stands with you guys, but
love it.
Hell of an album.
Big album for me back then, for sure.
Yeah, it's a very, very cool album. If it's not, I don't know if I like it or No Place for Disgrace better. That's tough. I'd have to line them up side by side and think about it.
Well, minus the cover of Elton John.
That
No Place for Disgrace is a flawless album.
No place for Elton John covers. Thank you.
No, and I was just kind of proud of those guys that they just plugged away without Jason. And at the time, I don't think Jason realized how big of a band he was in and was going to become. But anyways, Flotsam Jetsam, great thrash band to check out. They're not as much thrash. Actually, they're kind of, I've said they went full circle now, but there's a lot of that mid-era. Some of it's skippable, but not that debut.
All right. Alan.
Okay, so Anthrax drops the ball and doesn't release anything in '86 except an EP. So we're done with the big four. I will jump in a different direction. And Marty mentioned this in passing a minute ago, but I like it enough. I'm going to pause and give it its couple of minutes. As we said, hair metal was also huge at this point, and
getting huger by the minute too.
And getting huger by the minute. And my favorite from the year, and one of my favorites from the whole style, is Night Song.
I knew it.
Good album.
Cinderella. It is a good album. I never really understood why they used that band name, and on the album, there was so much pink. I remember flipping through just copy after copy after copy of this at record stores and record shows, and just this giant wad of pink, and just thinking, what the hell is with this band and all this pink? But this was
dumb
one actually
name, stupid name for a band and stupid fashion they got going on there. For what's on the album, it's really dumb.
It does. I avoided it for a while. This was one actually that my sister got, because she ended up being a little more into this style of stuff, and I ended up getting more into the heavier stuff. But at some point, I heard this playing from her room, and she was like, "Wait, what's that one? That one's pretty good." And she's like, "Oh, it's this." It's like, "Oh, okay." Because I knew the band, but only from a couple of their hits from Long Cold Winter. So yeah, and there's like, okay, can I borrow that and go make a copy of it in my room? And eventually, when she got rid of, a lot of her CDs and stuff, she outgrew, the hair metal bands and stuff like that. But this is my sister's old copy. It was like one of the few that was just like, I just keep this before you take it over to Goodwill, and I'll give that a good home.
I can just see the hype sticker on the next reissue. Cinderella night songs, not just for Alan's sister anymore.
But yeah, it's just every song on here is really good. They like it's the same situation like you described with Ratt, Marty. They're looking like that. The image is going that way, but the songs have a much stronger hard rock quality to them. Tom Kiefer's voice, of course, is a bit gruffer than you expect out of these other, pretty boy bands that are trying to make folks swoon. The songs, they just, they have a good little punch to them for something in this style. Is it going to go toe to toe with Rain and Blood? No, but it's not meant to. It works very, very well for this style. Even though it gets played a lot, on the radio, this is one I still don't mind taking out and playing from time to time. Like all these other sort of more pure metal classics we're talking about, this has withstood the test of time too, and still gets regular plays. So it's the only one in this ilk I'm going to mention tonight. We'll get back to the true cult stuff here in just a couple of minutes. But Night Songs, deserved a shout out because it does show the direction that the other half of the heavy metal universe was going, and going very strong in 1986.
Agreed.
Rick's just getting warmed up tonight, folks. Get ready.
Yep. With Rick and Ryan both on here nice and early tonight, we're going to have a fun chat. Absolutely. They'll keep folks laughing. All right, Marty. All right. What you got now?
96, 86. This is an absolutely enormous album for me for this year. Absolutely enormous. Fatal Portrait, King Diamond. My favorite King Diamond album, hands down. This to me has always been the third Merciful Fate record. It was written, a lot of the material was written for Merciful Fate, and it's got the atmosphere. You could tell they're recorded in Europe on tape, just like the other Merciful Fate records were. As soon as King moved over to the US and started recording digital, I think a lot of the vibe kind of died for me, especially with King Diamond. And when Merciful Fate reunited, I liked the reformed Merciful Fate albums, but they just didn't have the same vibe that these early recorded analog albums. But this to me is a perfect album. It's perfect. I mean, there is not a bad song. Dressed in White, The Portrait, Lurking in the Dark. What a great song. Haunted, they end on a very creepy vibe for sure. What an amazing album. So great. Obviously Abigail and them really propelled King Diamond into, a lot of people's homes at that point. He's starting to get played on MTV a little bit, Welcome Home and all that stuff. But yeah, I miss Hank Sherman. I love the Denner Sherman guitar duo, but Andy LaRocque, man, and I always love that King Diamond picture. It looks like his hand. It looks like someone else's hand chopped off. Yeah. It's too big for his body. That is just an evil fucking band photo. I love it. Absolutely killer. Everything about this shit is world class. Love it. Amazing album. Fatal Portrait.
Totally agree. Yeah, and even like Michael Denner he shone on that album. I mean, Andy LaRocque's a great guitar player, but I think on that album he didn't quite come into his own until Abigail and them, and then eventually Michael leaves the band. But I'm a huge King Diamond Merciful Fate fan too, and I love that album too. It was awesome.
Okay. Darcy's next. Yes.
All right, we're gonna go with some. I guess we'll go with a little lesser known U.S. power metal. I remember buying this cassette way back in the day on Enigma, but I have the reissue of Omen, The Curse.
Hold on. In my pile too.
Oh, you got that too?
OG.
Yeah. What a great album.
J.D. Kimball, rest in peace. The best singer in metal. Awesome.
He's awesome. The first track I ever heard was Bounty Hunter, which is still my favorite track to this day. and Teeth of the Hydra. If you've never heard that track, those are my two favorite tracks on here. But there's, I don't know, this just has it's just such a good album throughout the whole thing. There's,
great album, yeah.
There's just nothing weak about it. I love Warning of Danger too, but this is probably my favorite Omen album of the first three. I don't own the fourth one with Coburn on vocals. I'd still like to get that, but it's not a patch on this stuff. So, but this is I love this album. Always loved the artwork too. So, and the only thing I still would love to pick up from these guys is the EP of the Nightmares EP.
Nightmares. Yeah, I got that on vinyl too. Yep.
Yeah, you can get a combo pack with the CD, but yeah, great album. If you've never, this is just one of those bands that should have been bigger, in my opinion, for sure. So, hey, Jurgen.
Up, Jurgen.
Hey, Jurgen.
If you have not heard Omen, people, go out and buy this or Warning in Danger or Battle Cry. J.D. Kimball, man, the voice.
Yeah,
the voice.
Great singer. Very.
You can't lose with those three albums. They're unreal.
Yeah, he's one of those guys you only have to hear like one or two lines, and you know exactly who you're listening to.
He had such a bluesy rasp, but he sang with so much passion and from his gut. I loved it. Absolutely loved it. He really sold every word.
Yeah, for sure.
All right.
All right. Let's do another big name band. Not their biggest release, but one that I like quite a bit, although it's a controversial album. Black Sabbath has an album technically, although it's really just Tony Iommi and should have been done as an Iommi solo album, but you've heard, I hear different accounts. Some folks say, the record label insisted on having Sabbath. Other folks have said Tony kind of was a little, I guess, a case of cold feet about having just his name on it and, maybe kind of hiding behind the Sabbath name. The deal on this album for me has always been this. If you listen to this wanting to hear a Black Sabbath album, you are going to be disappointed because it doesn't sound like anything, that Sabbath did before or not a lot after. However, if you listen to this wanting to hear an incredibly good 80s hard rock album, you're in for a treat. It works very good in that style. Glenn Hughes, has obviously, coked out of his mind by this point, but still turns in a great performance on this. Tony, of course, sounds great. This album is very strong start to finish. It is a great set of songs. It's just that, it should not technically have been put out under the Black Sabbath banner. I think folks would react to it a lot better overall had it not been. But technically it is a Sabbath album, so for whatever that's worth, you just have to listen to it. It's one of those things you kind of got to have the right expectations or kind of listen to it with the right perspective. No, it's not going to be like Mob Rules or it's not going to sound like Heaven and Hell. There's nobody left. It's Tony and a bunch of guys he's kind of scraped together to, in essence, record a solo album. It's not supposed to sound like those albums, but because it has B and S on the cover, everybody wanted it to sound like those covers. A lot of folks, have gotten the album over the years, which is always good to see that some folks can check this out and really appreciate it for what it is, which is a very, very good 80s hard rock album with some great performances from some great musicians.
Yeah, you had a good lineup here. Like Eric Singer was on drums.
Yep, Dane Spitz is in the band. Yep,
and that's Dan Spitz's brother, right? Dave Spitz, isn't it? From Anthrax.
I think so. Yep, unless I'm horribly mistaken.
I was always wondering if that was his actual brother, but
Dave Spitz is the older brother of Dan Spitz. Yes.
Okay, so if he's 4'9", then it's his brother. Yeah.
3 apples tall.
Yeah.
I'm going to avoid the Dio joke because that would too soon.
Yeah, too soon. Yeah. Not enough time.
All right,
Marty, take it away then.
Another big one, 86. This thing is huge. It's huge. I've spun it a million times.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Pleasure.
Now we start
kill.
the German thrash pathway. Yep.
I was gonna try to set these up into areas, but because German thrash really kind of took my life over for a long time, but this album is perfect. God, is it perfect? It just is. It's so savage. It's just completely ripping. Ripping corpse. Rite of Violence, Death is Your Savior, Pestilence, Carrion, Command of the Blade, Under the Guillotine. Perfect album.
Yeah.
And the Milla's still turning it out. They've changed a lot. They've got a lot slicker, but they're still doing it, and they're doing a good job. And is it ever going to be this awesome? No, but classic, eternal classic. This is part of my DNA. I mean, like I said, I had a tape, my original tape had a blemish on it, and I listened to it, doesn't matter what format I listen to it on, I hear that blemish. I spun it so many times, it's just there.
Oh yeah. I agree with you there. That is I mean, it was definitely, would you say it's definitely a step up from Endless Pain? They were so young on Endless Pain, but you can just see how much they've grown on that. Pleasure to Kill. And I was late to the Kreator party, and I've told people that before, but the German thrash has hit me really hard the past 2 or 3 years. It's always on rotation here, whether it's Destruction or Sodom or even Tankard. I'm really getting into.
Yep. All right, Darcy.
Back over. Okay, so I don't know if all your viewers know that I live in Canada. So
what are you talking about? What are you talking about?
About an album here. I try not to have that Canadian accent all the time, or whatever you guys think is a Canadian accent.
It's not time for a toque yet, is it?
A toque? No,
yeah, put your
no
toque
yet. But there's a lot of great bands in Canada. And there's one band here that I'm going to show today that has 2 albums that you need to have in your collection. And this is their debut from '86. This is Sword.
Nice.
This is a reissue. It's a little more metallicized than their actual original copy, which I do have an original copy of this too. So yeah. Oh yeah, I'm sorry, but if you've not heard this, go out and check this out. I
need to hear that. That album has always escaped me. A lot of people lately have been showing it.
Yeah. Check out the song Stoned Again. And it's not, I know that's a stupid title, Stoned Again, but man, so catchy. I don't know, just Out of Control, Children of Heaven. It's not a religious band either by any means, but yeah, great album. And their follow-up album called Sweet Dreams was just as, not quite as good as this one, but this is a 4-piece band. I would describe the guitar tone a little bit similar to, kind of that Chris Holmes guitar tone of the
sharp
of the Wasp debut album.
Yeah.
It has a little bit of that guitar tone that I sense anyways, and that's just me. But just a really good guitar tone. Only a 4-piece, one guitar player does it all, but great band. Definitely check out. And the album's called Metallized if you haven't heard this one. So, yeah, from Canada. They're from Eastern. I think they are actually from Quebec in that province. But, yeah, check out Sword or their second album called Sweet Dreams. Equally as good.
Okay. Sweet Dreams. You went from Metallized to Sweet Dreams. Oh my God. Alan.
All right. I want to leave the German thrash to you for now, Marty, since it sounds like you're getting ready to reel some off.
I don't have all of them, but
we'll see. Because I
do have it. I didn't pull Sodom.
Oh, I think all 4, had a release, so we'll have to circle through them. So anyway, before while you do that, I will go with something a little more doomy. This band pops up on the radar in '86 with what's become a real classic release over the years. It's funny because they were having a lot of trouble with the lineup. The vocalist is sort of just there as almost a session musician, but does this incredible job with it.
Is now back in the band.
And 30 years later, finally rejoins as a full-time member. Just took him a little while to commit. But Epicus Doomicus, it's excellent Candlemass. It's the only thing they did before Messiah came on board, and that's the Candlemass I think most people know and love. Or the albums they did with Markland singing. This one should never be overlooked, though. It's got some absolute classic songs from their catalog in it, and all well done. You've got Sorcerer's Pledge, the closing track on here. This is another great way to close out an album with that track. You've got Blackstone Wielder is an awesome one. Early version of Under the Oak, later redone for the Tales of Creation album.
Killer.
Crystal Ball is great. Demon's great. Demon's Gate, Solitude, another one that got redone a lot later with Markland in the band, is a live track and sounded amazing. This is one of those benchmarks in doom metal, and I doubt we're going to see a lot of doom metal titles tonight. It wasn't necessarily the most popular thing going in 1986, but you did have bands that were out there and putting out some incredibly heavy, crushing stuff. When I'm in the mood for doom metal, it's nothing beats it. It's a really cool genre, and this is one of the bands that now are considered forefathers of that style. Yeah. All their releases are so good. It's really hard to say what's best and such. If you want to see me try, you can watch the Heavy Metallurgy episode where Marty, myself, and Jurgen tried to go through their catalog and rank albums and such. But their 80s output is just flawless. There's nothing bad that they did for so many albums in a row.
And again, most of the songs. Go ahead, Darcy. I'm sorry.
Oh, sorry. Do they have a new album coming out, Alan? Candlemass?
I don't know. I will check real quick. I haven't heard anything, but at the same time, there's no reason I would have heard about it. So let's see.
So I'm not super familiar with everything from Candlemass. So would you start me off with that album, or where would you start me with that band?
That or Nightfall.
Let's see. You are correct. They do have a new album slated for release in November called Sweet Evil Sun. And
nice title too.
Let's check the lineup real quick. Who's singing? Yeah, it is still Johan Languist is still on vocals, so he's still around. So, okay, cool. We've got a new Candlemass sound to look forward to. Really, anything they did in the 80s, you're not going to go wrong with, Darcy. The only reason I might say not to start with this one is because it's the only album from back then that has this vocalist. If you listen to like Nightfall or Ancient Dreams or Tales of Creation, that's going to give you a better idea of what all of those albums sound like, because they all have Messiah on vocals.
Yeah, the metal theologian just said Nightfall, so I already wrote it down.
Nightfall is a good one. It's not too long. There's a decent amount of variation among the tracks. It's not too monolithic for a doom album. So Nightfall is a really good pick for that. It's there are several little instrumentals on the album, is like the one knock against it. It needed like one less instrumental and one more real song.
Okay, awesome.
All
right, Marty.
Good choice. And I'm going with Darcy's shirt. Another album that I spun the absolute shit out of.
Yep.
And it's really interesting. I just want to make this one point. I had the tape. The tape was what I had. And when I finally upgraded it to a CD, I think it was the SPV pressing of the CD, it had a different cut of the album. There was like more guitar stuff in between tracks. Like they edited the tape weird for it to fit, apparently. But I mean, it still sounds the same song track listing, but they just had like longer little guitar things that they didn't. It kind of freaked me out a little bit. But man, this album is so great, and the riffs are amazing. The technical, they got a lot more technical, a little less evil. I think Infernal Overkill, it was a more evil album. I love that record. Yeah, but this one was a little more technical, just as fierce. You got oh my God, Curse the Gods.
God,
Life
what
Without
an
Sense.
opener that song.
What an opener, man. Confused. There isn't a bad song. Eternal Band, United by Hatred. What a fucking ripping album. And the guitar tone is so bizarre. It's like it's distorted, but it's not distorted. I think we said earlier that it would sound like it was recorded on tinfoil. I don't know. It's weird, but I love it. It's a totally unique sounding album. Destruction doesn't sound like this anymore. They just don't. It's a different band, but it's still good. But this here is amazing. A great album. Love it.
Iconic iconic artwork too.
I always love the artwork of it. I like the color scheme. I like it's great.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yep. It's way up there in the German thrash metal pantheon for sure.
My turn?
Yes, sir. Sorry, I was looking at the comments. I'm
that's
lollygagging.
Okay. I love trying to read those too.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah,
there's a lot of comments to read because we've got we've had over 90 people on off and on here. So a lot of folks
that's
are
pretty awesome. And I just want to say hello to everybody if you're just joining us now or later or watching it tomorrow. When I did what did we do last time? 1994?
95.
There was, I think I had more bands that I didn't listen to exactly in 95, but I do have a few today that I didn't know in 1986. But I'm going to show you one album here today that I guarantee you, if I would have known about it in 1986, I'm going to go out on a limb here. I would be mentioning it with the likes of Master of Puppets. I'm going to tell you that for sure. And that's this album, Onslaught.
Oh, bastard.
And sorry, Marty, if I took it, but
I've talked about this album a bunch on the channel. It's no big deal. Go for it.
You can keep continuing talking.
I love it.
This is a thrasher piece. This is awesome. It is. I know it's only 7 songs, but every song is about 6 to 7 minutes long. I know that's weird for a thrash album, but Cy Keeler is absolutely brilliant on here. Nigel Rocket, who is still there to this day, and even with the new singer David Garnett, their last album is phenomenal. Underrated band. I'm not so much for the Steve Grimmett album that they did, but this needs to be mentioned.
Yeah.
With any big thrash album in 1986, this is a monster album, and I believe that. So definitely check this out if you haven't. Out of the 7 tracks, there's just nothing weak on here. Metal Forces.
Let There Be Death.
Yeah, Let There Be Death. Contracted
Antichrist.
Blood, Fight with the Beast. It's just,
Flame of the Antichrist. What a great fucking song.
Yep.
Yeah. And I think you can agree with me that this should have been mentioned with those big albums because it should be.
This is like the English. You could tell that they were influenced a bit by Metallica in that, like, they're trying to get a little US flair, but it still came out sounding a lot more evil. Yeah. The lyrics are pretty satanic. There's just great. I think they're maybe a little more Slayer influenced on here than Metallica, I guess, but I don't know, man. What a fantastic fucking album. Wow.
No,
absolute banger.
I think it's the song Fight with the Beast. Actually, there's a similar riff to Megadeth in there of 86.
Was it era, Megadeth or Exodus?
Yeah. Actually a mix of both. Because you could take like Peace Cells era and Bonded by Blood and mix it up and shake it up, and you'd get some of this shit. This is awesome.
Amazing. Great pick. All right. Sir Steele.
Indeed. I've got a funny little story about the Onslaught album before I pull my next album. Certain things in the universe will never make sense. But when I was in high school, one of the few other, kids into heavy metal, walks up to me like before history class, one day. He's like, dude, you want to buy a couple of cassettes? He needed a few bucks. I'm just like, oh, sure, maybe. What have you got? And he like reaches into his denim, jacket.
Not drugs, but cassettes.
Yeah.
Not drugs.
Cassettes?
Nope.
Was he driving a white van and handing out candy? No? Okay.
Free cassettes.
There's like, I don't remember what all he pulls out. I know he pulled out a Death Angel cassette, he pulled out another cassette, which escapes me, and he pulls out a copy of Onslaught's The Force. And they were all three bands I had not heard before. I was like, oh, I don't know. These are pretty cool. And I don't know. He wanted like, $5 a piece for them or something. I don't remember.
Wow.
It's like, I haven't heard any of these. I'm just like, he's like, well, tell you what, take them home, play them tonight, whichever ones you want, keep, and just bring me I don't know, $5, $4, whatever it was, just bring me the money for whichever ones you want to keep. I was like, okay, cool. So took them home, played them. And like Marty said before, this is the day and age where you had to basically skip lunch most days to be able to afford a tape or two, even at this price. I ended up I copied all three, of course, onto blank TDKs that night.
I don't want any of them. Sorry.
No. I was cool about it, though. I bought the Death Angel. I do not remember if I bought the other tape, the second tape, or not. I didn't have enough money for all three. And the Onslaught, although I like the Onslaught, I was like, I think I like these other two better. And it's like, I can only afford these two. Maybe I'll get the Onslaught some other time. And so, after another week of not eating, I went back. It's like, hey, Sean, you still got that Onslaught tape? He's like, nah, I sold it to somebody else. I was like, that's okay. I'll find it another time. I spent years looking for that goddamn Onslaught album and could not find it anywhere. I found the first one eventually. I found the Steve Grimmett one, In Search of Sanity, eventually. But it literally took years before I could find another copy of The Force. And it was, the whole time, the thing I remembered about it most, because the cassette tape got eaten pretty quickly, so I didn't even have the copy to listen to. But Flame of the Antichrist, I'm like, I'm going to get this damn album again just to hear Flame of the Antichrist again, if for no other reason.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it took a long time to find that stupid album.
Worth the hunt, though, man. What a great record.
Worth the hunt. And I got to hear the other two Onslaught albums while chasing it down, and I like all three of them. All three are very different from each other, of course.
Oh, for sure.
Okay. Yeah, Alan, you got to build this up a little bit so I can guess. I want to try to guess your next one.
Oh, okay. It may be real easy because Marty said he wasn't going to pull this particular German thrash one, so I guess I will.
Okay. No problem.
Yep.
Got it. Okay.
You got a cool version of this record too, by the way. Very cool.
Oh,
thank you.
Awesome.
It is a pretty neat one. So yeah, this one, of course, it's a love it or hate it kind of album for a lot of folks. Yes, the band still sounds really messy at this point, and there's no denying it. At the same time, it's the kind of messy that I find pretty charming. Sounds like such a terrible word to apply to sloppy, blackened thrash German metal. It's like, oh, it's so charming. It's like, that's how you describe a fucking cup of tea or something. I don't know. Bottom line, I dig it. I really do. And what Marty's alluding to, this is another one that had two very different versions. The band recorded it once, and I think the record label basically rolled up a newspaper and bopped them on the nose and said, "No, go do this again. Do it better." And so they did. But then when it got licensed to Metal Blade, the other version got put back out. So this is a more recent reissue is a 2 LP set that's got both the Steamhammer and Metal Blade versions
very cool
included in it, which is really, really cool. I think Jurgen was the first person I saw show this off, and I was just like, oh, that's too, I've got to get that, because it's kind of a pain to find both versions and play them side by side. A lot of even the unofficial CD copies of Sodom, boots and anthologies, a lot of them will say they have one version, but then when you listen to something else that says it has the same version, they're clearly not the same version. It's like, well, which one of these is actually the Steamhammer version? And you hear something else, it's like, wait, is either of those the Steamhammer version? So it was kind of a real pain in the ass. It's very nice to have both versions together, clearly labeled, so you can hear the differences between them.
Which one is better?
That's what I was going to ask you, because it said there the metal theologian said he hadn't heard the Steamhammer version. I have not either.
Yeah, to be honest, I don't know. I've kind of gone back and forth on it. It's not like I am not an audiophile. I'm not going to sit here and be like, oh, we're clearly on this one. He's like, 1/8, more out of tune than the other. First off, we're listening to Obsessed by Cruelty. That logic just should not apply.
Yeah, that's out the window.
And even if you are going to apply that, that's fine. I am not the person to do that for you. But there are some differences, and I've kind of gone back and forth. I've literally sat here sometimes and play one song, take that record off, put the other one on, play the same song. It's just like, I don't know. They're actually both pretty solid. But they're
same track listing and everything.
There's one difference in the track list. If I remember right, the Metal Blade has one extra song. But I'm going to have to literally look at them side by side.
Is it the Surfing Bird song? The first version of the Surfing Bird. Oh,
this is the early demo version.
Yeah.
Let's see. We've got. Can I get these lined up? And of course, only one side of the plastic sleeve is see-through. So, well, let's find out. We will take a moment and do this.
Hey, we almost hit 100. We hit 99. Cheers to everybody watching tonight. Happy 69th episode.
And then Alan spent 5 minutes unsleeving Sodom reissues, and everybody went away.
Yeah. 69. Go grab your cover of Ratt and never mind. Never mind.
Let's see. So, yes, you've got the intro on both. But it is different lengths, so the intro is a little longer on the Metal Blade version. You've got Death Like Silence, then you've got Brandish the Scepter, then you've got Proselytism Real. I always trip over that name. Equinox, and then the Steamhammer version has After the Deluge added. That's the difference. Got that extra track. And if I remember right, that one's recorded in a different session because it has a very distinctly, it's clearly not part of the same recording set. So yeah, there's that one difference in the track list. But yeah, it is very rough, but that's always been part of the appeal of German thrash compared to American thrash. It always was a little bit more raw, a little bit more mean, a little bit more dirty sounding, and yeah, it works for all those reasons. Let's see, what's Eric saying here?
He's got that Wax Maniacs edition. You can't tell the difference between the two.
Yeah, I can pick up some little differences here and there on things, but no, it's not as big a difference as I was expecting, having read some people's comments on it over the years. But yeah, there are some little things here and there, which is one reason it's kind of hard to pick a favorite. There's not enough of a massive difference that I'm like, oh, clearly this one is superior, or clearly that one is inferior. But yep, since Marty didn't pick it and I pulled it, I'll go ahead and show that one. And so now, once again, we're already batting 2 for 2 with German thrash bands.
Right on.
Big albums that, they didn't sell as many copies as their American counterparts in 1986, but these are legends of the Teutonic thrash scene.
Absolutely.
All right, Marty, what you got to next?
We'll keep rolling with Germany, I guess.
All right.
Tankard Zombie Attack.
Very nice. Love this album.
Of the first 3, this is my least favorite.
Aww.
Me too.
But that's not saying it's a bad album. I really enjoy the album. It's just every single song is the chorus is the name of the song 4 times.
It really shows off, the punkier side of the band.
Yeah, definitely the punkier side. They really Chemical Invasion, the album that came after this, is my ultimate. That album, they crushed on that album.
Me
Absolutely
too. That's
great.
my favorite too, for sure.
Yeah. But this is a great record. It's fun. It's a good beer drinking, crank it up an air guitar and headbang album. Love the cover art. Very cool.
Mm-hmm.
Great band. And they're still cranking it out today and having fun and doing what they still sound great, which is cool. Very cool.
Yep.
Brand new album coming out. Pavlov's Dog, it's called. It's coming out in October.
Wow.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So are all 4 German bands getting an album out this year?
No, 3 out of the 4. So we already have Kreator, we have Destruction, we got Tankard, and Sodom have kind of a best of 40th celebration album coming out. So not a studio album, but so we still have something from from all of the big four for sure.
Okay. Did Sodom have one last year? Maybe I'm.
Yes, Sodom. No, came out in 2020
already. Okay. Already been 2 years.
Genesis 19. It was called.
Yep. Okay.
Awesome album. I think that was my second favorite album of 2020. Awesome album. If you haven't heard that one. So
let me ask you, I have not heard the album. I've seen the album cover's killer. I've seen a lot of people hailing it, but is Tom doing the punkier vocal style, or is he doing the old school, really gravelly, awesome style?
No, I would say it's more old school, less punky. Here's the cover, actually.
Yeah, it's killer.
And this is the same guy that, if you know Joe Patagno, he did
Patagno.
He did a bunch of Motorhead covers and tons of, I think 3 or 4 Sodom covers, but this album is killer. I love it. It's I think what I remember mentioning about this album too is the production is what I'm looking for. It's not that dry, stale, I don't know, just shitty now day and age of production. It's more plug them guitars in and play. And if you haven't heard this, go out and check it out. Genesis 19 it's called. But yeah, pretty cool album too.
Okay. I believe you're up now, Darcy. No, who's up next?
Yeah, I think I am. Yeah, I am. Okay.
Yes, Marty just showed Tankard, so we're back.
Yep.
What did I show last? I think I showed, whatever. I showed Omen tonight. I'm going to put these guys in the same category of underrated. I don't use that term a lot, but Omen definitely is way up there for me. But these guys are a little bit below, but still somebody you should check out. This is Lizzie Borden.
You bastard.
Oh, really? Shit, we didn't even talk before. We should have. Dude, we should iron this shit out before.
Oh, it's all good. No, this is a great record. This is a great record.
I love this album. This is probably my favorite Lizzie Borden album. Probably Visualize is up there too. And but
hey Darcy, you want to do a show Wednesday night?
We'll talk about that. I don't have to see. But yeah, I don't know. You guys can probably agree. This is a band that should have been bigger. I guess kind of hard to pinpoint these guys. Were they kind of like Wasp? Were they, with the the theatrics and the outfits and stuff? But yep. I've always loved these guys. These guys
always kind of. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I mean, this early stuff leading up to this was very Maidenish. A lot of very Maiden riffs.
Yeah,
like mixed with an LA feel.
Yep, for sure.
This is a great record, real energetic.
Oh yeah, Generation Aliens, Terror on the Town, Bloody Mary. What a cool song that is. Ursula Minor, and then the title track, Menace to Society, and then you continue into Visualize with Everybody Knows Me Against the World, but man, this one is just a killer album.
Oh, I think one of the guitar players died, and I don't know if that was a reason, but the Visualize is a lot more commercial. They embrace their LA
definitely,
sound. Yeah, and that's really rubbing my ass the wrong way for sure.
Darren, the answer is yes.
And you know what? I think Visualize, a lot of that shit has to do with the production. They were bringing in guys like Max Norman and stuff like that. They were, I don't know if that was actually the case on that album, but when did Visualize come out? This was probably Visualize was 87, I bet.
I think it was a year or two after that, but I might be wrong.
Definitely a little more commercial than this, or now I'm drawing a blank. What was the album before this now?
Love You to Pieces.
Yes, with that chick on the cover there.
Yep.
But anyways,
nope, Visualize is 82nd. Yep, you're right.
Check them out. Great album, Lizzie Borden, Menace to Society.
Stupidest album cover ever.
Oh yeah, it's corny as shit, but awesome album.
It's a good album.
Yeah, you're right, Darcy.
Sorry for taking that one, man. Sorry about that.
Oh no, it's good. It's all good.
Yeah, no, you're right. They're one of those bands that sits in that kind of Wasp nexus of being right on that line between being kind of having the weird look and image thing, but still being too heavy for that crowd for the most part.
Yeah, almost like early Armored Saint category.
They fall in that category a little bit too. Yep, sure do. Yeah, I saw Lizzie Borden years later, not back then, but it was when he did the comeback. What's the album where it's a gray cover and he's like crawling out of he's got like a tombstone or something. Let me look at the discog. I never bought the album, but it got a little bit of fanfare when he came back. Deal with the Devil.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And you know what? That was actually, it had some experimental shit on there. It was almost like some, I'm not a fan of Marilyn Manson, but there's a couple kind of like that in there, like not full on Manson shit, but yeah, definitely an experimental album on that one.
Yep. But yeah, I saw them on that tour. They were really, really good. I'll always remember it because I was running a little bit late and I was literally like, walking through the door right as he was taking stage. And he's like, he's coming out, on stage and he slips and falls flat on his back. And I mean, he goes down like a ton of bricks, going back to our Metal Church album from earlier. But I mean,
did he hit his life alert?
It was literally like watching something like on a Bugs Bunny cartoon where the foot just flies up in the air, like they stepped on a banana peel and just went plonk. And to his credit, I mean, it's like a split second. He's right back on his feet, singing the first line on the first song, didn't miss a beat. And the way he fell, you would have thought he would have like literally shattered his spine. I don't know I don't know if he tripped on a cord or it just one foot got in the way of the other, but he went down hard. Everybody there, you could just hear like the, and he just bounces right back up. And 5 seconds later, you wouldn't have known it. It was just one of those random. Like, okay, the show must go on.
What year would have that been?
I know it was Deal with the Devil tour. I'm thinking it was fall of 90 or fall of 2000. Let's see. The album came out in October 2000.
Okay, so yeah, probably 2001.
So yeah, it was probably 2001 by the time he was out and about. Because let's see, October 2000 would have been that. Yeah, it might have been up to about a year after that. I'm not sure. I'm thinking it was maybe fall 2001, but I might be wrong. I can't. Who else was playing that night? I honestly don't. I saw a lot of shows at that club in North Carolina, and they tend to run together a little bit because they were all right there within like a 2 or 3 year window. Yeah,
but they're definitely fall in that category of bands that I just believe they should have been. We always say that they should have been bigger. Like, I mean, I mean, I love bands like Armored Saint. I love them, but they've never been at the top of people's mindset or whatever. But anyways, good. Yeah, great.
Yeah. In reading some things here and there about not interviews with Lizzie himself, but with people like Brian Slagel and stuff. Multiple people have always commented that the one thing that really always kept that band from getting to that level was management. That they went through a lot of managers, and they always had allegedly very shitty, selfish managers who were fucking the band over behind the scenes really bad, not getting them the right deals, not getting them on the right tours, ripping them off. A lot of folks have pointed over and over to that. Yeah, they never had a good manager, and that did a lot to hold them back.
Yeah,
which sucks.
I do want to say we did hit 101 viewers, so cheers to everybody.
Thank you for everybody for hanging out. That's really, really cool.
That's awesome.
I'm glad to be with you tonight for sure. Good times.
Absolutely.
Alan's next.
Hey, and we only have 4 hours to go, you guys. Hang in.
Yeah, hell, I'm not even putting a dent in this stack.
Ah, jeez.
All right.
All right. Where do we go next? Okay, let's go. Well, yeah, okay, this one right here. So yeah, we've talked about some of the German thrash ones, and I believe we still have one more German thrash one to come, I think, but we'll leave that to Marty.
I got 2 more actually.
Okay. Among the
Yeah,
big four, there's
yeah,
one of the
me
big
too.
four we haven't commented on, at least.
Okay, I'm gonna leave Marty with that one because I know which one he's gonna pull.
Yeah.
You do. I don't
Oh
think
yeah,
you do.
I do.
We all shall be revealed. Anyway, I mentioned a minute ago that usually you went to the German scene for the kind of more raw, dirty, violent sounding stuff.
Dark.
The darker edge of stuff. There are exceptions, of course, in the American scene, and one of the weird, more underground ones in this vibe was Enemy. A weird band name, small kind of underground thing.
Tragic history.
Real messed up history. Yeah. The main guy, major substance abuse issues to the point of like killing his own mother because he was so strung out on drugs that he apparently thought she was like some kind of robot or alien or some shit. Really, really messed up. And then he ended up driving off a bridge, like a toll bridge, not one of those bridges that lifts up. What do you call those?
Toll bridge.
Yeah. Apparently, the bridge was going up, and all of a sudden he just guns it and shoots right off the thing. So yeah, a really messed up story. But this album, yeah, it has a little bit more of that. It's got a punky side to it. Some of it's kind of venomy in.
Right
See what I did there? Enemy, venomy. Yep.
But swing bridge. Eric says it's a swing bridge.
Swing bridge in Europe. Okay, we'll go with swing bridge. That works too. But yeah, this album has that more raw, production tone to it, where it's like, one part Venom, one part Motorhead. Is it right to call it a thrash album outright? I don't know. It's got different sounds and styles mixed into it, which is one of the things that makes it an interesting listen. It's it's rough around the edges for sure, but again, that's part of the appeal of an album like this. Sorry, what's
Eric said he literally just drove over that bridge earlier today.
Oh, really? Okay. Yep. There you go. So American bands, there were some American bands, working in that same, yes, very dark and gritty and raw sound style too. They just weren't floating to, the top of the extreme metal stack in America. As we've already seen earlier tonight, it's the Bay Area stuff, that had really had everybody's attention in 1986. But these bands were lurking out there too. Stuff like Enemy was in the underground if you were digging deep enough.
All right. I got two more for Germany. This is a band that I've always loved. I love this band. I like the two that came out after this album better, but Death Row's Riders of Doom in Germany, it was known as Satan's Gift. But classic German, they're kind of like the little brother to Kreator, I think. Kreator kind of took the ball and ran with it. Just Death Row put out killer records. Were on Noise as well, but never really got they even kind of look like Kreator if you
Yeah.
And John, the one guy over here looks like John Arch from Fate's Warning. Anyway, dark thrash metal, really aggressive. Riders of Doom, great song. Violent Omen, Dark Tales, Samhain or Samhain, however you say it. It's a great debut album. I prefer Riders of Doom a bit better, and I love Deception Ignored. That is an amazing album. Super techie thrash. They went from really blunt, dark, driving, awesome German thrash, and they got a little more techie as they went. Obviously, they and then their fourth album. Hey, thanks, Neighbor of the Beast. Appreciate it, man.
Thanks. Cool.
Very cool. Thank you so much. If you haven't heard it, check it out. I would definitely go with Riders of Doom from a starting point, though. And if you like tech thrash, go with Deception Ignored. Great albums. Awesome band. Kind of overlooked, which is a bummer. Yeah, thanks, Neighbor of the Beast. That was very cool of you.
Noise Records, hey? Noise?
Good old Noise, yep.
You can't go wrong with those Noise bands.
No, eternal classics. All right, Darcy, you're up. I'm going to go use the little boys' room while you guys converse.
Okay.
Right.
Well, I think I'm going to stay in the same lane for one more anyways. Because if you only owned one album by this band, this is the one. This is Hex, Under the Spell. I'm going to take it out of here so that's not such a bad glare. This is a fantastic album. Best describe this as shit. I don't know. There's, the vocals remind me a bit of Dio in places, but just killer riffs throughout the whole album. Love this artwork. Definitely, I actually only own 2 Hex albums. I own this and their first album, which this is a different singer, but he's awesome. His name is escaping me right now. Maybe we can fill it in later in the comments. But yeah, another one of those underrated bands. Always love their logo too. But have you heard this one, Alan?
I've heard some stuff from Hex. I don't know them really well, though. No.
Yeah, I don't know. Marty might know this one. We'll have to wait for him. But
yep, I think it's been mentioned recently. It came up. I don't remember if it came up last week or something else.
They had another album too. Oh, what was it called? Let's see if I have it. There's their first album called No Escape. This one's lesser well known than Under the Spell, but they're still going today. And yes, Dan Bryant was the singer. But I think it's probably like one key member left lineup type of deal, you know, but definitely we'll have to ask Marty about this one. Marty, how about this one? Hex, Under the Spell.
I've only got one Hex album, and it's something about sanity. It's got a character sawing his skull cap off.
Okay, so that's probably a newer one, but if you have never checked this one out, definitely check this. Would be kind of that US power metal. I had said that the vocals remind me a little Dio-ish in places. Great riffs. Definitely check this one out.
The album I have has got that guy Clint. I want to say Clint Bauer, but that might be because Eric was in the chat. Clint something. He was in the band Abscess. Chris Reifert.
Chris Reifert, yeah.
Yeah, he went from Hex to Abscess, and I think he went back to Hex after Abscess broke. I could be wrong on that one, but yeah, he was in both bands. Very weird. 2 bands that didn't really sound much alike. All right, Alan.
All right.
I'm going to grab a drink.
Go for it.
All right. I want to change gears a little bit here and pull some new wave of British heavy metal. I know Frank and some other new wave of British heavy metal fans are out there. 86 is pretty late for new wave of British heavy metal. Let's be honest. Yeah. A lot of folks would say 84 is the end of the party. And some purists will say even earlier dates than that. I think 86, you still have, a few good releases coming out from a few bands. So I will extend it up to 86. After that, you're really scratching to find anything that would come after 86. One of the ones that came out in 86 that I wanted to give a shout out to was the third, and for a long time, last album by Angel Witch, which is called Frontal Assault. Crazy cover art with the big, Angel Witch demon lady there being pulled by some kind of giant centipede unicorn thing. I don't know what it is, but it's pretty badass looking.
Cool.
Angel Witch, is one of those classic, should have been bigger stories like Darcy mentioned before. The first album had come out in 1980, made a lot of waves, got a ton of positive press. Yes, Frank, I've got you covered. Absolutely. But then the band had trouble getting the second album out, and they ended up going through lineup changes. And by the time the second album came out, which was called Screamin' and Bleedin', the scene had shifted just enough that it didn't really click with a lot of folks. This one came out then just a couple years later, and it did get some better reception, at least than the sophomore album did. But again, by 1986, this is just not the style folks are listening to anymore. This is heavy metal that's 5 years out of date by 86. And I mean, especially in the UK by 86, I mean, you've got shit like Napalm Death going on. Are you really still listening to your Big Brother's Angel Witch albums and Quartz and Budgie? Probably not. It's not a bad album. The production, like a lot of British stuff from the mid and late 80s, they're just cutting corners on the production. It's a little a little weird, a little echoey sounding, but not bad. I think it does have still a lot of decent tracks on it. You've got, and I have to look through the track list here, but Straight from Hell is one of their more aggressive songs. She Don't Lie is a really good atmospheric number, strong occult theme in the lyrics. Something Wrong is another one that's kind of a little slower and moodier. Frontal Assault is on the more aggressive side. Dream World, a little catchier, but works well. A lot of folks kind of slag a little bit on the lineup around this time, but I actually think they're pretty good. I like Dave Tatum's vocals. Kevin's guitars are still fine. It's good. Angel Witch. Angel Witch is one of those bands, they're always going to be haunted by that first album because they're never going to match it. They will always live in the shadow of that self-titled album from 1980. But this one is not a bad album. It can stand on its own. Last thing to note about it, some of you may be looking at this and thinking, Frontal Assault has a blue cover. Why does that have a brown red cover? If you've got the blue covered version, that's the American press. It came out, I should know the label, but I'm drawing a blank on it. Anyway, it's not the same album, actually. This is one of those annoying cases that happened a lot of times in the 80s where the US release not only ended up with different artwork, but ended up with a completely different track list. What they did for the American version was they took half the songs from this and half the songs from Screamin' and Bleedin', which had never gotten released in the US, smashed them together and put it out under the same name of Frontal Assault. The cover art's not as good. It's a little more Crayola-ish looking. Same character, but it's a close-up of her face. But it's kind of done with, kind of a bad coloration. So if you've got that blue version of Frontal Assault, what you really have is half of Frontal Assault and half of Screamin' and Bleeding. It's not a bad combination of tracks. The two albums are more similar to each other than either is to the original album, but it can definitely confuse the heck out of you when you start seeing the other version. It's just like, wait, what's going on here? So Angel Witch's last original release for some years, back in the 80s.
Good one.
All right. Jack, thank you, man. That's really cool.
Thanks, Jack. Larmer's D Hero, and I have no idea what that is, man. No idea. So I didn't pull it.
Nope, I don't know that one either.
All right. I guess it's my turn. I got one more German band to go. So I'm going to knock it out. I think this is my last one for Germany. Assassin, The Upcoming Terror. There's another one of those that out of all the stuff, I got the album that came out after this as well. It's not as good as this. Upcoming Terror. No, what the hell is the name of it? Interstellar Terror or something. I can't remember. But this album is great. It's sloppy as shit. It's just really aggressive and raw. Kind of fun just because it is so raw, but there's so much energy and it's very German sounding. It doesn't necessarily have the super dark feel that a lot of the other bands of that time. This is a reissue. I had the tape when it came out, but always loved this record. Can't go wrong if there's a tank on it most of the time. And
exactly.
Let me see here. Assassin does a great song. Holy Terror this is just a great, if you've not heard this album, check it out. It's a great German thrash album. Sloppy and awesome. Totally cool.
I'm definitely, I didn't know that one. I am definitely writing that one down.
Yep.
I haven't heard it in ages, but I remember it being quite good.
Yeah, the second one, it's like, what the fuck happened? It's like the three I've heard, they've all sound different from each other. I don't know if they went through a lot of lineup changes or what, but yep, great album. It's a lot of fun. Great road trip album. It's got you punching your steering wheel. It's so good. Awesome stuff.
Right on. Good pick.
All right, Darcy.
All right, well, let's stick with the German metal, and we're going to even go with some German thrash. I love, if you watch me in any extent, any of my videos, I love German metal, period.
By the way, go click a link in the description to go to Darcy's channel and subscribe. He needs to get up there and count for sure.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. But just glad I'm here. But I have there's always the German big four. There's the big four in North America, but I kind of got my German big six, I call it. And the other band is Accuser, and this band right here, Exhumer, Possessed by Fire. Absolutely awesome album.
You know what? I have never heard that record. I've seen so many people salute that band. Never heard it.
Yeah, and even their newer stuff lately has been awesome. They've had they probably should be due for a new album, I would think, but this is you should check it out. High Roller has been reissuing this album for quite a few years now. This is just a whatever version on CD, but this is definitely in my German big six right here. Exhumer. They only have I think they only have 6 studio albums, maybe 5 or 6, but most of it is really good. But check it out. Possessed by Fire.
What's the other one? Up from the Sea or something like that?
Yeah, Rising from the Sea.
Rising from the Sea, yeah. But
their latest album was really good. This one. It's called Hostile Defiance. Check out a song called Dust Eater. Great song. This was from their last album was 2019. So they should definitely be due for a new one now. But if you haven't checked out this one for German thrash, if you like the Sodoms and stuff like that, this too. So
I don't know why I've never. It's always just one of those bands that slipped through the choice. Slipped through the through the cracks. Sorry, I was reading a comment as I was talking, and choice was in the sentence that I was reading. But anyway,
we all have those bands, but and this is a band that I discovered a lot later on in life. Definitely didn't discover them in 1986.
That's a cool thing. It's almost more fun to go back and hunt the shit you missed, and there's a lot. It's just you start cracking open the surface. It's like, oh my God, there's so much.
Oh, it's endless.
Yep.
Yep.
All right. What's up, Alan? What you got?
I got some more new wave of British heavy metal.
Yeah, Frank said that there were 2 more that he can think of in 1996. So let's see if you can stump Frank.
Okay.
This is probably one Frank is thinking of, but we'll find out in just a moment. One of my favorites. It's a cool album, killer cover. I always love the cover art on this one too. It's the Desolation Angels self-titled album.
Okay.
That Reaper is way bigger than that Pegasus.
Even maybe a little bit out of proportion, but Reapers are like ethereal. They don't actually weigh anything, so he can still ride it.
It's not that heavy.
Yeah, it's not the summoning situation all over again. Blarg the ogre riding a damn pony. This guy, this Pegasus does not have to fear the Reaper. It's not going to crush him. But I always thought this, again, this is a small independent kind of release thing, but really cool artwork for the front cover. Kind of like the way they did the band picture on the back cover as well. Lightning going through the skull, and the guys down here in the priest robes. This came out. This is an original. It came out on a little label called Thames Side Records. It also, weirdly enough, got a reissue the following year in '87 in Brazil on Rock Brigade, which I'm guessing was tied to a publication in Brazil. How this particular album of all things ended up getting a following in Brazil in the mid 80s, I can't explain. Some things in this world just don't make sense.
You stumped Frank.
Frank, you don't know this one?
Yeah, I don't know them either. No.
Okay, Frank, I'm keeping on your email, Frank, and I'll help you out with this. Anyway, what's up with this album? This is a band doing a really good version of taking classic Black Sabbath and injecting just a little bit of that new wave of British heavy metal energy into it. That's what they sound like. And they do it very well. It's got a really strong track list. The vocalist, I think his name's David Wells, if I remember right. He really can wail pretty well. He's not trying to sound exactly like Ozzy, but his voice kind of operates the same way Ozzy's does, with the wailing parts. And so, you just have classic Sabbath song structures, but amped up just a little bit, enough to give it some extra punch to it. With that, the Live Artist LP is a good one, Eric. Yeah, 100 Miles Per Hour. That's a cool album too. So yeah, the deal with Desolation Angels, they actually have a little bit of a story. This was not a band that made the one album and disappeared. They had done a single. Oh, what's Eradicate saying? I didn't see it.
I hope that Reaper is on his way to take out some damn dolphins.
Those dolphins better fear that Reaper. That's for sure.
That's right.
But yeah, Desolation Angels, they had released a single in 84 and then did the album in 86. Oddly enough, the story didn't end there. They ended up doing something I'm not sure many bands did. What's Aaron say? Sorry.
So he's glad he's over COVID because he keeps having to get up to put on another record.
Glad you're feeling better, Aaron.
Definitely.
But yeah, Desolation Angels ended up relocating to Los Angeles and taking a stab at cracking into the music business from there in the real late 80s and earliest 90s. There's stuff, and I actually used to have a couple of these original demo tapes that they had done. They sound nothing like this material. Sadly, there were some lineup changes, including, I think, the vocalist rotated out for a while, but maybe came back. And yeah, they were doing these demos like around 87, 88, 89. They actually did a full length in 1990, but I think it was a cassette only release called When the Flame Still Burns. And it's kind of very mundane stuff. They lose the Sabbathisms. They lose the new wave of British heavy metal energy. It feels just kind of dull. There are some people that really like it. And if you like that material from that era of the band, hey, that's cool. No problem. But yeah, for me, it just always felt like they had sucked all the life out of the band. They were now just kind of a very generic California metal sounding band. And by 88, 89, that's not something you wanted to be. You needed to be a thrash band, or you needed to be partying on the Sunset Strip. You couldn't be doing this real kind of lukewarm metal style and get anywhere. So yeah, I remember I was really excited. I wandered into a used store one day and walked out with, Desolation Angels original demo tapes, thinking I'd found the mother lode, and played them and just like, is this really the same fucking band? This sucks. But I did sell them for a decent amount later on, so it worked out. But yeah, that first album is a really, really cool one. If you like the heavier stuff, I wouldn't say it's exactly like Witchfinder General. There's not a lot of new wave of British heavy metal bands that did doomy sounding material, though. So I guess if you have to compare it to something, maybe that, but it really just sounds like a slightly more amped up Black Sabbath. Cool stuff. It's been reissued. There's different collections and box sets. Be real mindful. If somebody finds this on Discogs or something, look at the track lists and like where the songs come from. Real careful before you go get one of these collections or anthologies. There's at least one of them that is almost exclusively the California material. I remember when it came out, I was like, oh, cool. They're going to do like this big all-inclusive box set. And I started looking through them just like, where's the damn original stuff? And yeah, it was all these later demos. It was like 2 versions of the When the Flame Still Burns album or something. Just like, I ain't paying for that shit. That shit sucks. So you can get the good stuff on some of those, but you can also get stuck missing the good stuff on some of those. So do be mindful before you run out and buy an anthology of Desolation Angels. And yes, the band took the name from the Bad Company album, but saying it out loud makes the band sound slightly less cool, so we're not going to do that.
There.
Oops. All right, Marty. Franco, I have one more new wave of British heavy metal one next time we come around, but right now it's Marty's turn.
All right. Well, someone was saying that they're waiting for this one to show so they can finally take care of themselves. Waken the Guardian. I'm not going to talk a lot about this. We've done it a lot. I mean, This is a top 5 album for me of all time. I love it. Pure atmosphere and emotion. Pulls at the heartstrings. Love this album. Their finest moment, in my opinion. And yeah, 1986. What a great year for metal. What an amazingly great year for metal. Maybe the best. Hard to say, but
yeah,
this album really brings it closer to being the best. I love this album. Masterpiece. amazing. Darcy.
All right. Let's shift gears to let's shift gears back to Canada, to a band that I knew back in the day. Obviously, living in Canada, you could not know about this band if you watched the Much Music and the
Pepsi Power Hour.
Pepsi Power Hour. And this is one of their more chaotic albums. Maybe you can guess it right away, but this is Voivod's second album called Roar. Probably, I'm gonna say not a bad album by any means, but my least favorite of their first four, I would say.
It's their most aggressive. It's very hard driving.
Yeah, there's lots going on here where their debut, War and Pain, was more like, had some Venom, Motorhead-ish stuff in it. If that's an okay comparison, but this one was just very chaotic. That's the word that I describe this album at. Mm-hmm. But I've learned to love it more and more as I've gotten older. I didn't really like it back in the day, to be honest with you.
It's super brutal. It's really aggressive record.
Yeah, but Ripping Headaches, I mean, stuff like that, or Fuck Off and Die.
Thrashing Rage, Hell Driver, Build Your Weapons, great fucking song.
Yeah, and the classic lineup of Snake and Piggy, Away, Blackie. I love some Voivod. I just always say they just never make the same album over and over. They've kind of just, tested the waters in numerous different, not genres, but you know what I mean if you're a Voivod fan. But yeah, and the classic Voivod artwork. Yeah, you couldn't avoid these guys if you were watching the old Pepsi Power Hour for sure.
Yep.
Especially with the Ripping Headaches, that was like played all the time.
Go shit, I'm not a fish. Right on, Michael. Lyrics from the album.
Yes.
Fucking screwed up English.
Yeah, and you know what? That accent, I love it. I mean, I think that's part of the charm of Voivod, especially in the early days, because Snake's English wasn't perfect that by any means.
Yep. All right, Alan.
All right. Promised one more new wave of British heavy metal entry. Again, 86 is getting, you're pretty long in the tooth with new wave of British heavy metal, but there's a few things worth mentioning. And this one's a live album. It is by Cloven Hoof, and it's called Fighting Back, and it has some rather unfortunate artwork.
He's got a 4-pack.
They were really kind of going for a little bit of a Manowar vibe here, and not quite hitting the mark.
Shit, I got a keg.
I got a keg too, yeah.
I got a big keg.
But the band Cloven Hoof, for a very long time had this weird theme of trying to do like an elemental thing where the band members were earth, wind, fire, and whatever the other one was. But as you can see here,
Grandma, can I raid your closet for our photo shoot? Sure,
yeah,
Sonny.
Costume's not exactly coming together so hot here. Some of the just little descriptive stuff here, it's hard to read because the font's weird and the print's small, but there's this whole little paragraph on the back cover that is literally, in the beginning the great lord of Metallica looked down upon from his throne of thunder, and he created the old gods, Deep Purple, Black Sabbath, Judas Priest, blah, 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 which eventually leads to, and then there was Cloven Hoof raised from the four elements, and the history was not really altered in the slightest because they never had much of an impact. But,
Cloven Goof. Good one, God of Grind.
Yeah, they were a weird band. They often come up in heavy metal conversations for new wave of British heavy metal. They have a rare original EP that is pretty collectible. Their first album from '84, has some really good tracks on it. It was on Neat Records. There's a couple of tracks on there that, they belong on pretty much any new wave of British heavy metal collection. But then this was the next thing that came out on a different label. And the band did persevere on into the later 80s and such, and actually did pretty well. They were one of the few bands that were pretty good at making the transition out of new wave of British heavy metal and into that kind of late 80s British power metal scene. And again, not full-fledged, Dragon Force or anything like that yet. But they did manage to transition, and they did eventually, thankfully, give up on the goofy, elemental premise. The live album here, it has a unique lineup. The vocalist from the earlier stuff is gone. The guy singing on this, I am not going to even pretend to read this font, but he had sung with Budgie and Trapeze. So he'd been with some bigger name acts in the past, has a good voice. And there are some tracks on here that would get redone on later albums with even different lineups. But for example, Reach for the Sky is one of their best songs ever. Really, it's soaring, anthemic track. And sounds very good here. And if you're thinking, wow, a good sounding live album from a UK band in 86, well, part of the reason for that is it's one of those fake live albums. The crowd noise is very much just kind of dubbed in. It's not too distracting though, so the album still works pretty well. There are some misses on here. There's one song, it's got Daughter in the name, and it's terrible. What's it called again? Daughter of Darkness. It's actually a Tom Jones cover, which why are you covering a Tom Jones song, Cloven Hoof? Why are you doing this to yourself, Cloven Hoof? Cloven Hoof is a band that you read some accounts and they were almost infamous for shooting themselves in the foot a little bit. Again, with the wacky costumes and stuff, they actually early on, there was a stigma about the band being a little bit of like a retro glam rock band, even though musically that's not what they were playing at all. But just people would look at them and be like, oh, this is some kind of Ziggy Stardust shit going on here. And the band's like, no, we are real metal. And we'll prove it to you when we play next week. Oh, where are you playing? The Southampton Glam Fest. It's like, oh, really? This is something that happened. I'm not just being hyperbolic here. They went and proved their steel by playing at one of the big glam festivals that year. And so, yeah, on this one, I think it's almost like they're trying to overcompensate with the whole heavy metal Men of Steel thing. And it's just like, we swear to God, we're actually a heavy metal band. That we promise we are heavy. We're heavy metal Men of Steel, which is one of the songs. It's kind of a cool anthemic calendar, but it's right on that line where if you listen to it and you like it, you think, okay, cool, heavy metal. If you listen to it and you don't like it, you're going to think, oh God, that's some cheesy ass shit right there. At the end of the day, I like the later Cloven Hoof stuff. I think they transitioned pretty well. And because of the strong vocal performance and some cool new songs that had not been on older releases, yeah, you can do worse. It's not a perfect album. You got to work around that Tom Jones cover a little bit, but you can do a lot worse than Cloven Hoof circa 1986.
I guess I'd rather have a 4-pack than a no-pack, I guess.
It's something. All right. I think that's going to be the end of the new wave stuff for me, but Marty, it's your turn anyway.
All right. Well, Nuclear Assault from New York City is a band formed by Dan Lilker after being tossed out of Anthrax, unfortunately. But I'm glad they did, because Nuclear Assault were awesome. In 1986, they released 2 albums. Well, a 12-inch single called Brain Death, which is very cool.
Awesome.
A little bit more mature songwriting on that one. I don't know if you guys noticed, but there's some very interesting song interludes on there. Anyway, this is the big one. Game Over. I love this band. I love this album. I love the 2 albums that came out after it. Very unique sound. The guitars, again, it's one of those things where the recording budget must not have been great, because the guitar sound, or they were in let's see. Well, it was produced by Alex Perialis.
No, there's a start right there. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that should be good, but the guitar sound is weird. It's one of those where it doesn't sound like there's a whole lot of distortion, just some clean amps turned up really loud, but what a great album. I mean, very There's a bit of a hardcore mix in there. Very subtle. It's very subtle. Stranded in Hell. I've always loved that song. Nuclear War. Cold Steel. Live, Suffer, Die. Sin. Classic. Absolute. This is one of the few Repka album. I never knew Repka did this album cover, to be honest, until recently. We were talking about cover art, but yeah, he did this album cover.
It looks like his coloration, but yeah, I mean, it is a little different for him. It doesn't have that one
typically
central
like a
figure.
Predominant. I mean, this guy's kind of out in the front, but it's
not so much.
Not so much. It's usually like half the cover, somebody looking sad or rotting, and then a bunch of shit in the background. But yeah, this looks almost like maybe a Repka sketch, but I like it. This is one of the few pieces of his that I'm like, oh, that's really cool. But I love this band. They were great, and they were great on this. Alan has met Glenn Evans. We tried to get him on the show, but he said he would, but then he flaked on us. So whatever, man.
Didn't quite work. I don't think it's quite maybe the format he was looking for in terms of some content. But yeah, Glenn is recording new music. Nuclear Assault was they had some festival stuff on their schedule this past summer. I don't know for sure that it all worked out, but
yeah, they played the Philly Metal and Beer Fest, and they've done some other stuff, and they got other stuff coming up, I guess.
Yeah, so. They had a Metal and Horror Fest in North Carolina back in the middle of the summer. But I never did hear from anybody how that turned out, which was a little strange. I hope it didn't get canceled or something at the last minute.
Yeah, I love that album. Brain Death, what a song. Oh,
yep.
Man, 7 minutes of awesomeness.
Totally killer. All right. Darcy's back.
Okay, well, you know what? It can't all be good, right? So I'm gonna show you what can happen when a record company should probably just fuck off. Raven, the pack is back.
Oh, Frank asked for it and Darcy delivered. I was not going to entertain that.
I am a huge Raven fan. I even like Stay Hard.
I had that on tape back in the day, and I never kept it.
This is the one where they just kind of like I said, the record company should have just took a long walk off a short pier.
Does that album have On and On it? That's not a bad song.
But On and On no, on Stay Hard they redid On and On, which is a remake of their own song, but
yeah.
This has got the shit cover of "Gimme Some Lovin'."
Yeah.
Geez, if I could name a couple, the title track is not. It's kind of piss poor too. I say "Rock Dogs" might be my favorite track on this whole album. Who produced this? Oh, Eddie Kramer. So Eddie Kramer from Kiss, Rock and Roll Over, shit like that.
Electric Ladyland Studios.
But look at this. These guys have got a mixture of hockey, baseball, motocross equipment on, breaking out of the school lockers.
The guitar player needs to put the panties on the inside, not the outside.
Oh, man, this is the corniest cover I probably have ever seen.
Rick might have the best take on that.
I'm a Raven fan. I love the first album. Actually, the album this was their second on Atlantic Records, and then came
Mad.
The Mad EP.
Life's a Bitch.
Life's a Bitch, which I really love
good.
That album.
That's a good album, yeah.
But then they got dropped, and then they came back with Excess. What was it called again?
Thanks, Renzo.
Nothing exceeds like Excess, but this is the last place I'm going to point you for a Raven album. So this is your one not to get, okay?
But you bought it on fucking vinyl.
You know what? I got this for $5.
Yeah.
They probably should have paid me to take
I
it.
probably would have bought it too. I would have bought it too for $5.
That logo alone, that's worth $5 right there. But the music is not. But like I said, it can't always be good in 1986. So this is kind of the bottom of the barrel right there. Okay. Had to be done.
Had to be done.
I showed the good new wave of British heavy metal, folks.
Yeah. Well, I didn't leave. Frank's happy now.
I left Darcy in a corner with nowhere to go because 86. It's pretty slim.
Oh,
well, here's a keeper reap. Worst album cover: Into Glory Ride versus The Pack is Back. Which one do you keep forever? And what?
Man, that is tough.
I gotta go with an oiled up Joey DeMaio, so I'll keep Glory Ride.
Yeah, I would too.
I don't know. The Raven is more hilarious in a lot of ways. I might keep that one for the sheer comedic value.
I agree, Frank. I had to also. Hey, $5, come on.
All right, Alan, you are back.
All right. I'm overdue to show some German metal. Darcy's shown some cool German metal. You've shown some cool German metal. I showed Sodom, but let's show some other German metal. Let's show some Stormwitch.
Oh, cool.
Great band. This album cover, this is 1986 in a nutshell. These are witches, I guess.
I like them.
I, as a child of the 80s, I can dig this look. Absolutely.
Yeah.
But
I dig it.
I mean, you don't have to flip this album over to know what year it came out in. You look at that picture. Yeah, that came out in 86. I don't know what the hell it is, but that's 86.
It's like they were supposed to be on the Packers back cover, but stumbled into this photo studio instead.
No, they saw the guys coming out of the locker, and they're just like, we'll just go pose for the other band over in Studio B. There's
hey, I'm having some weird science Kelly LeBrock flashbacks right now myself.
But yeah, this is it's another one of those long-running German metal bands, kind of tier 2 band in some ways. They don't get as much attention as some of the other big ones like Rage or Running Wild. This is their third album. And it's kind of the last one that has the band operating as sort of a no holds barred actual German metal band. After this one, they start to get a lot more lightweight and a lot more commercial friendly. Not bad, but there's a different shift in direction when you get to Beauty and the Beast. I mean, if your album is titled Beauty and the Beast, you're tipping your hand that this is not going to be real heavy. But this one still has a lot of real classic stuff on it. The band is doing that unfortunate German thing with uniforms.
They raided Rolf's closet.
Yes. These were the coats that didn't fit Rolf properly. So, he loaned them out to Stormwitch. Try to,
they raided a buffet ship, and he had to pass down his old uniforms.
Here are the coats that aren't cool enough for me. Storm's like, ooh, free clothes. They may have needed them by this point. But despite the fun images, some really classic Stormwitch tunes on here. It starts off right away. Rats in the Attic is one of their finest. Ravenlord is on side B. That tune is absolutely great. They do have a song on here called Eternia. You know where that's going. We don't need to talk about it. Jonathan's Diary is Dracula reference, Jonathan Harker. And stuff like that, very much Dorian Gray. And those songs are where Stormwitch more and more over the years really kind of, made their mark. They were very good at doing, these, straightforward, catchy songs that were all steeped on kind of like, the gothic horror stuff. They would have, the vampire song, the Edgar Allan Poe songs, the Bram Stoker songs. That's always what they did. They were never, going for the gory stuff or, the really underground unknown stuff. They were just, take the classics, Frankenstein, stuff like that, and come up with a song about it. And more times than not, it worked out pretty well for them. But yeah, first 3 Stormwitch albums, very good, heavy stuff. They're all right there with any of those other classic German metal bands. After this one, you got to be real careful. I like some of the later albums, but again, they start operating in a much cleaner, slicker version. They trade these coats in. On the next album, it's all like pastel-covered blazers with extra hairspray.
Metal Madness 777 sent me a later day one, and man, it is not very good. Very glammy.
Do you know which one it was offhand?
No, I sent you a picture of it, I think, when I got it, and I'm like,
was it War of the Wizards?
It's going to be ending up coming your way, I think. So you'll see soon enough.
Gee, thanks with an endorsement like that.
Yeah.
No, I think it may have been War of the Wizards. but whatever, or maybe not. But yeah, I've always kind of liked the band, but yeah, be careful going with their later stuff. It for most folks, it's not going to be heavy enough after Stronger Than Heaven. The first three, though, any fan of 80s German metal should be able to enjoy those.
All right.
Over to you, sir.
All right, we're going back to Metal Blade with an album that may not be as, it's kind of a lateral move. It's just as good as the first album, just not, maybe not. I don't know what I'm trying to say here, but Hallow's Eve, Death and Insanity.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay.
I've listened
to
the
86. I forgot that.
I listened to the crap out of this album back when it came out. Every song is about death or dying. It's kind of comical how they did it.
Yeah.
So it's a concept album if you must. But I always like that logo. I love the cover, and these guys just ripped on here.
Yeah, it's a little more thrashy and intense than the debut album.
The debut is just such a unique album. It's so good. I love that record. This here is a bit more thrashy. And the album after it, Monument, I also like, but they started doing some weird stuff, a little mellowing out a little bit. I don't know. I still like the album, but this is a really heavy, thrashy, great album. Like I said, revolving all around death. DIE, Death in Effect, great. Death and Insanity's awesome. Goblet of Gore is a killer song. Plea of the Aged, awesome. Nobody Lives Forever. I try not to slip on my sweat. What the hell does that mean? Anyway, great album. Love it. Classic album.
Yeah, I think Metal Blade just reissued those first three, like right up to Monument, I think.
Yep.
Yeah, great band. Okay.
All right.
We're going to shift, well, not shift gears. We're going to keep on that German metal that I like so much. Coming from a band that probably is the band that has my favorite heavy metal album of all time, which is Restless and Wild, which is Accept, but this is their one from 1986, Russian Roulette. So this one, it was the follow-up to 85's The Metal Heart, where, Metal Heart went a little more commercial. This one went a little darker, definitely darker than Metal Heart. Not quite back to the balls to the walls days, but this is the last one to feature Udo he would not come back to the band till 1993. And if you're familiar with Udo Dirksnyder, he went on to form his own band called UDO, has tons of studio albums, which I love. He's one of my, I know he has a very unique voice, but he is one of my favorite voices of metal, and definitely German metal. And I'm a huge fan of Wolf Hoffman, always have been. He's top 5 guitar players for me personally. But track listing, I love Wolf Hoffman, but yeah, just a solid metal album. If you're only familiar with hopefully you're familiar with Restless and Wild and Breaker. Balls to the Wall was kind of my introduction to Accept, but this is kind of a continuation of that and end of an era. After that, they got an American singer named David Reese on an album called Eat the Heat. But check out some tracks. The title track, I love the song Heaven is Hell. Another Second to Be. Yeah, man enough to cry, but yeah, Accept. Good old German metal.
Right on.
Good call. Yeah, I've been playing a lot of Udo era Accept lately, and that's the one I don't have. I've got everything up to that one.
Yeah, it's definitely worth checking out for sure.
Yeah, I've only got Restless and Wild and Balls to the Wall. Those are the only two I have. I've seen that in used bins before. I always pass it by. I kind of regret it.
I've been waiting. That one, it's going to show up for $5 or $6 one day, and I'm going to buy it. It just hasn't just yet.
Yep.
Definitely check out, if you ever come across Breaker for a good deal and you like Restless and Wild, you definitely need to have Breaker in your collection.
Yep.
Oh, I've got one Alex sent me from in the chat. It's not Udo singing, it's another guy. It's a little more pseudo glammy, but it's still a really good record. I can't remember the name of it.
Maybe that's the one for
Beat the Heat. Beat the Heat.
Eat the Heat. Yeah.
Eat the Heat. Yeah, that's the one. Yep.
Yeah. So that's David Reese from Accept. Sorry, David Reese on vocals on that album. Actually,
it was good.
Yeah, he's coming out with another album with another ex-Accept member, Herman Frank. They're doing a collaboration called Iron Allies. So if you're a fan of that type of stuff, like I love Herman Frank is a great guitar player, ex-Accept too. If you never heard his solo stuff, pretty good stuff too.
All right. This professor is back in the hot seat. Okay.
I've shown this one from time to time, so longtime viewers will have seen it. But for 1986, this had no impact on the scene whatsoever. But in hindsight, it's one of the best underground self-releases from that year, and possibly, arguably, one of the best independent releases from that whole era. It's the Castle Grayskull album. Salem's Witch, Betrayer of Kings.
I don't know that one. Wow.
It's one of those just private press US bands. It's the only thing they really did. They're still around. They've done some festival things here and there, so they're listed as active. Confoundingly, this is one of the few things that has not gotten reissued. Of all the stuff, I'm always amazed how many very tiny bands get the anthology treatment sometimes, and yet there's a big glaring hole where this album still hasn't got. I can only assume somebody in the band is holding up the works due to rights or royalty, expecting too much money or something. Excellent album, very powerful anthemic sound. Vocalist leans a little bit gruff. Lots of just very strong, kind of defiant, fist in the air kind of numbers. It's not thrash. It's not hair metal of any type, way, shape, or form. It's just really good, solid metal. If you listened to it and had no idea who it was or anything, you kind of start to lump it in with some of the Cleveland area stuff. Some of the bands on Auburn records like Shock Paris or Breaker at least get you in the ballpark a little bit. But tremendous album. It's a funny one in terms of getting the original one. It's kind of expensive, but it's not really that hard to find. I don't know what the original pressing was, but it must have been at least 1,000 copies because it turns up pretty regularly on eBay and Discogs and stuff. It's been known to collectors forever. The copies have always been kind of expensive, and yet they still manage to show up and sell for a decent price, which kind of tells you this isn't one of those things that, it's just expensive because of hype, or it's just expensive because there's only 5 copies known and nobody can find it. You can find this record without much trouble, but you're going to have to open up the wallet and dig kind of deep if you want to get a copy of it. Even now, after 25 years of watching this record sell on eBay several times a year, and it will still bring a lot of times, a 3-figure price tag. Wow. It's that good. It really is a solid album.
That was back in the day when Castle Grayskull had dental insurance and went to the dentist. It's got nice clean white teeth.
Well, see, I'm guessing that's one of the Stormwitch chicks, there on the cover running towards it, and you have the Eternia song playing in the background, and so the band's kind of working together.
Yeah,
it's 1986. This was a thing happening. Somebody had did Hallow's Eve have a song called Skeletor? But that was in 85, I guess. Or am I thinking somebody had a Skeletor song around this time too? I'll look for that while Marty shows his next album.
Not going to talk too long about this. We just recently did a show talking about Dark Angel a little bit, but Darkness Descends. This is my favorite Dark Angel album, hands down. Don Doty on vocals. I prefer him over Ron Reinhardt. Although Ron's great. I mean, he was a good replacement for sure. I just think the songs are better on here. As they went on, their riffs, they started sandwiching more riffs in and maybe sacrificing, good songs. But I still like Leave Scars. It's really good. This album is a classic. I love it. I got this in Camelot in a cutout bin for $5, I think. I don't remember, but Though it's not cut out. I must have paid full price for this. I got it at Camelot though. Anyway, classic record, so good. Awesome California thrash.
Yeah, definitely great album.
Darcy's up.
All right. I don't know if it's thundering and lightning behind me, so it's pouring rain, but don't let that stop us. Let's shift gears back to some Canadian speed metal, kind of a transitional album for these guys. And I guess we could definitely throw this one up as maybe shittiest covers. I don't know, but here's Exciter, Unveiling the Wicked. So, corny cover. It's not shitty. It's just kind of corny, but so kind of a transitional album. Ricci was out on guitars, and they brought in Brian McPhee on this album. But if you're familiar with albums like Violence and Force and Long Live the Loud, which is probably still my favorite Exciter album, because that's the album I got into the band on, but this is still a good album. It's not as I don't know. It's definitely you can tell that there's been a change in the guitar playing. But have you guys ever heard this one?
I do not have that one. I have not heard that one.
I used to
Long
have
Live
that
the
one.
Loud is my favorite.
Yeah,
by them.
Long Live the Loud has been my favorite since forever. But I like this album. And then after this album, Dan brought in an actual singer, and he just did a couple of songs on the album. It was called actually it was just self-titled, or Over the Top, I think. They had 2 titles for it anyways, but this is a good album. If you have not checked out, there's the lineup with McPhee on guitars and Alan Johnson and Dan Beeler. Yeah, definitely this. Oh, I remember that comment.
Yep, I was thinking the same thing, Rick.
Yeah, the old show, the V. But
They ate rats and grossed everybody out.
That was a great show. I loved it. I couldn't wait to tune into it and talk to all my friends at school about the next day.
For like one season there, it was like the equivalent of Lost. Nobody could shut up about V. You went to school the next day, and yes, it was all people would talk about.
Exactly.
Did you see them eat the mouse? Ew.
That and Battlestar Galactica.
But if you haven't, if you're not familiar with, Exciter from Canada, the first 5 albums are phenomenal.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, early Exciter is very good.
Yeah.
All right, Alan.
All right, let's see. I think I want to go with this one. But let's see. And Chad, help me out on this Skeletor thing. I'm very much remembering a song or lyrics about Skeletor, but I'm not coming up with the band. So you guys got to help me out on this a little bit. It's getting late, getting tired. Got to jog my memory. Anyway, while the chat works on that, this one, the fact that it's taken me this long to get to this album by this band is another testament to how deep 1986 is. Just really an embarrassment of riches when it comes to how many great metal albums there were. This one's right up there with some of the best of them. Kira Thungle released their third, One Foot in Hell.
Yeah.
Not their best cover art. No,
I like it. I like the dude on the throne. It's pretty cool.
It's not bad. I like the big bug thing on the throne. This guy in the background, just the fact that he's kind of the coloration with the shadows doesn't quite work. He looks a little.
Shit, is that Doro Pesh?
Yeah.
It looks like just a statue frozen in place. And compared to the outstanding artwork they have on the other albums, I always felt it's still a Michael Whalen piece. It's not like it's bad. It just isn't as good as the other ones. Anyway, this was the first full-length Kira Thungle album I had. I had a couple of tracks on compilations like Death of the Sun on Metal Massacre 1 before this. This was the first time I got to hear the band at full force, and this is still just a stomper of an album. It's very heavy, very aggressive. Most folks seem to rank it a little bit low in their catalog, and I've never really understood why. All their albums are great. It's hard to compare them. I get that. But, this one just, starts off with, it just has this amazing intro. The first track is Blood and Iron. And there's like no bullshit, no preamble, no nothing. They're just like dun, 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 and they're right away full into the song. And the guy dude's just shrieking his head off, within like 3 seconds of the song starting. It gives you no time to adjust whatsoever. It just immediately grabs you by the throat and just starts wailing. Blood and Iron is a killer song. Lots of other fast ones, 100 miles per hour. Doomed Planet is just, this nasty, crawling crusher of a song. Nobody ever really sounded like Kreator. Nobody had that same level of heaviness that just, I always described them as if there's a soundtrack to the apocalypse, if there's one band that's going to be playing, on the stage when all the shit goes down at the end, it should be this band. These guys had that crazy, heavy, powered out, doomy, just screaming, angry sound that just nobody else ever really captured the same way. Love the album. Love the band. They never got any attention in the 80s, which was a real shame. It brings me no end of joy that this band finally got back together in the past few years and is finally reaping some rewards from all the great shit they did over the years. It's very much kind of the Manila Road story all over again. Band that couldn't get a whiff of attention, even though they were on a better label. They had some releases on Metal Blade and stuff, but in the 80s, nobody cared. In the 90s, they were long forgotten. And finally they're getting some appreciation, and they deserve it. And the new stuff they've done is fucking amazing. It really sounds like they never missed a beat. They came back and picked up right where they left off in the early 90s. So Kreator, those one of the best just logo things ever. I don't know if it's on this one, but yeah, just the two little praying skeleton guys kneeling to form the Omega symbol. Mm-hmm. It's one of the best fucking visuals in all of heavy metal. If I was ever going to get a tattoo, which I haven't now, and I probably am not going to, that was always like on my short list of two things. That would be one of the two I would have picked. Was those?
Oh, dude, me and Mel were going to surprise you for your birthday and pay to have you get the dolphin heart in the shape of a heart for a tramp stamp. We thought that was going to be really sweet.
So, your turn, Darcy. What you got next?
Oh, Marty's internet went out.
I guess so. He said he'd been having trouble, and I heard some wolves howling in the background. He may have met a real sticky end there. You just don't know. Shit can go bad real fast when you start talking about fucking dolphins in heavy metal.
Yeah, as soon as he said tramp stamp, he was gone.
No, as soon as he said dolphins, he was going into timeout.
Okay, let's. Well, you know what? I haven't not avoided this album, but I'm going to show it anyways. This is my. I got a lot of favorite bands, but my overall favorite band is Judas Priest. And here we go, 1986's Turbo, and I'm going to show it.
You have to. You must.
You can hate me for loving this album, but I do.
I like it.
I don't know if I love it, but I like it. I liked it in 86. I thought it was a very unique album, and they tried something different. It didn't quite work out. They came back to, a heavier sound on Ram It Down. And then we all know what happened in 1990 with Painkiller. But I don't know. This was maybe like a party album for me in 86,
Very much so. Oh, yeah.
I was 17 years old, turning 18. I think I bought my my very own first car. And I have my original cassette here that I played to death in that first car. So, yeah, it's got some memories.
Out in the Cold's the best song on that album. It's a good song.
It's a really good one.
Out in the Cold.
That's my favorite track.
That's a great deep cut. Yeah.
Yeah. And, I don't mind, like Reckless and Turbo Lover. It was overplayed, but I still didn't mind it. Locked In, Private Property.
Yeah.
Kind of some corny lyrics and things like that. But, man, if you picked one song off this album, Out in the Cold is a keeper. Great. Yeah. So there we go. There's my pick. I had to show it, so here it is.
Right on. Well, I'm going to jump in here. I got Skip, so no big deal.
Oh, you got Skip? Oh yeah,
that's all right. I was thrown out in the cold.
No pun intended.
All right. Well, this album I did not hear back in '86, and like Alan was talking about, Sirathungal having very little acclaim during the '80s. Manila Road was another one of those bands that couldn't buy a vowel in the '80s, and this was their formative years in a lot of ways, which I'm glad they came back in 80 or 99, 2000. They put out the awesome album Atlantis Rising, and after then, it's like people finally caught up to that band, and Mark could take the band out tour, and they actually played the big festivals, and they got the acclaim that they so deserved, because this shit is so good. I don't know, Darcy, if you're a Manila Road fan, but man, this stuff is fucking classic.
I need to get that album. I do not have that album.
There's a bunch that are awesome, and this is of the trilogy, isn't it? Isn't this one of the trilogy that Al?
Yeah, Crystal Logic, Open the Gates, and the Deluge. Yep.
But this has got, Divine Victim on it, which is worth the price of admission for me. But it's the whole album is great. It's really heavy. It's really fast. They're starting to speed up a little bit in this stuff. Completely overlooked band at this point in their career, but they got their due at the end, and I'm very glad. And they have put out, decades of amazing metal records. There's a couple missteps here and there, but there isn't many. I mean, any band that plays for a long period of time is gonna fuck up once in a while. It's just gonna happen. But
yeah,
that Spiral Architect was supposed to be Spiral. What was the name of? No, it wasn't the name of it. It was supposed to be Shelton's solo album. What the hell?
Courts of Chaos.
No. That the one after that. Circus Maximus. Yeah. That album is pretty crappy. But
Courts of Chaos has its problems too.
The drum machine. The drummer says, "I want to program drums for this album." It's not a good scene, but
and the keyboard player wants to program synths for the album too.
Right, but it was actually, there's some good songs on that record.
There are some. Yeah, there are some.
Great band. Check out Manila Road if you have not. Darcy will have a chat and get you straightened around on which ones to get, because there's some classic stuff.
Okay.
All right. Alan.
Oh, okay. Yep. Let's see. What do we got next then? I think we're going to do this one. Just double checking things because I found one album in the stack from 1985, and that would just have been embarrassing. All right. Band I've talked about a few times before, usually a different album though. 86 saw the second full-length album from Savage Grace called After the Fall from Grace. Possibly their best album. Most folks talk about, the previous album, Master of Disguise, which is great. They had, an incredible vocalist on that one. He left the band after that album pretty quickly. So this one, if I remember right, it's just, the main guy and guitarist Christian who's doing the vocals, and he's actually quite good at it. He's got a pretty good voice. And this album is it has a better production. It's still not perfect, but that was always one of the big problems with Master of Disguise. The production on that album is distracting. We'll use the nice word. It's distracting a little bit. But this album doesn't really have that problem so much. It was just a little bit lost in the mix. Again, as we've talked about, by 86, it's kind of like, choose your adventure. If you want to listen to thrash metal, turn to this page. If you want to listen to hair metal, go to that page. If you're still playing power metal, what the fuck are you doing with your life? And Savage Grace, was still very much in that camp.
They kind of just started to go, I've got that and another one reissued. Mm-hmm. And there's like some kind of glammy stuff at the end of it. It tagged on as a bonus. I was kind of surprised.
The next one, yeah, Right Into the Night was an EP that came out a few years later. And yes, that one is starting to feel different. They did a few other tracks too. And yes, they changed direction. I guess they almost had to try to make a living because they were really good. Excellent band with this style, but they never got anywhere with this style either, unfortunately. But yes, couple of different versions of this you can find. The American versions, the band name down here is in red. If you get the French version, which I think was on Black Dragon, this will be in like gold foil, and the logo will have like a slightly different color scheme to it also. Or you can just get the CD reissue that comes with, the EP. And some of these like compilation tracks and stuff like recorded live in 92, these songs are, this is not the Savage Grace you want to hear. You want to hear them blazing away doing some classic US power speed stuff in 1986. By 92, the party was over. All right, Marty.
Yeah, back to Marty. We skipped you before. You're back.
You have atoned for your dolphin and porpoise-like sins. So
it was Mel's idea. It was Mel's idea. I was just willing to throw down on it. So
don't throw her under the sheet. she knows dolphins are not allowed in this house. At least not on my side of the house.
Not even a sea monkey. Come on. Next up, great album, but not the best of their first 3 releases, in my opinion. Possessed, Beyond the Gates. This one suffers a bit from a kind of a weird production, but the songs are still really good. The thing I like that came out after it a little bit better, the Eyes of Horror EP, very, very classic stuff, produced by Joe Satriani, who was Larry Lalonde's guitar instructor, and as well as Kirk Hammett's for a minute there too. But I mean, Oakland area, I believe. No, wait, they're in the Bay Area somewhere.
Yeah, I don't remember.
They're up there too. Yeah. Very, of course, their Seven Churches album is an absolute classic. This one's really good as well. It's just it suffers from not the best production.
Yeah,
fair.
But Tribulation, March to Die, great song. Restless Dead. I like the album. I prefer the Eyes of Horror EP that came out afterwards, and I prefer Seven Churches. But excellent, had to be mentioned. Great classic American thrash release for sure.
Yeah, I think Carl Canetti was involved with that too, with the production.
Oh, really?
Yeah, from the Rods. You know Carl Canetti from the Rods?
Oh yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, he was involved in that. But I personally I like their comeback album the best. Their Revelations of Oblivion from 2019. I love that album.
Okay, Darcy's back.
Okay, and you know what? Just when I thought I was running out of German metal, I'm not. Not a band I knew back in '86, but a band that I've been, and I know Marty's been talking about these guys and digging into them. I think I sent you a copy of this one, so you'll know what it is right away. This is Rage's, technically their first album under this name, Rage, Reign of Fear.
Yeah. Great album.
Yeah, I love this album. I mean, they had the album before that under the Avenger name, but this is their actual debut, and a band that I have invested a lot of time into in the past year and a half or so. I love Rage.
Me too. We have what, 25 or 6 or 7 albums. I'm getting there, man. I'm getting there. I'm picking away. They're all good.
Almost too much though. It's almost just like
it is.
You know, those days of absorbing, like, you know, when one album runs into the next and you don't even know what you've heard.
Yep.
I don't want to get into that with these guys, so I've been kind of buying them slow. But I would say, man, their first 8 or 9 albums are just awesome.
They are.
But this one, yeah, check out some tracks. Like I always love this. Well, tough title, but the song "Suicide" is very good. Title track, "Reign of Fear," "Deceiver." That song, great track. But yeah, love me some German metal. I think Jürgen got me onto these guys big time. So he is your number one Rage source for
sure
anything Rage, Jürgen. So if you're still up, Jürgen.
He just sent me a package with a couple big Rage box or gifts or multiple DVD CD sets. I'm taking one of them on my trip starting Sunday. I'm looking forward to digging into it.
Yeah. Great album if you haven't checked this one out.
Very good. Thanks again for sending that. I'm going to be doing a big VCLT thing here eventually. I'm just trying to get through all of it so I can at least have something to say about everything I show. But it's been a lot. So, yeah.
Yep. Yeah. Rage for me, I got to admit, those first couple of Rage albums are not my favorite. You know, the lineup shifts on album number 3, and I think that's where they really start to get interesting. I had those first 2 albums a long time ago, and just they never quite clicked. I like the Avenger material, oddly enough, but I actually like it better than those first
I've never heard
Rage.
the Avenger stuff.
Yeah, I had that album a long time ago. It's funny because I got it dirt cheap back in the day because somebody had put it in one of those like resealable, plastic covers. Yep. And at some point they had allowed the cover to get stuck to the sticky part.
Oh,
and then when they pulled it off, they ripped. You could tell there was this, little white seam all the way across the front cover where they had ripped that cover flap loose and basically peeled, a stripe across the cover. So the cover was really damaged. But it allowed me to buy the record really cheap. I just wanted to see what it sounded like, and it was actually pretty good. But yeah, for me, Rage gets better on about album 3.
Yeah, with when Manny Schmidt comes in on guitar and Chris on this is the album that Perfect Man is.
Yeah,
like I agree with you there 100%, Alan. That's my favorite era of the band.
I don't know. I really love Trapped. Trapped is a great
that's
album.
The same lineup too.
Trapped's in that same era. Yep.
Yeah.
Just a little bit later. Yeah.
Missing Link after it's really good too. Same era, I guess.
Yeah.
Missing Link's one I still haven't tracked down.
Too many albums. Or Secrets.
Secrets. Oh, the reissue. They got this. Is that the reissue with the real cover that Noise didn't
that's
use?
The original cover right there.
Way better.
Oh yeah, way better because they had. What did they have? Just a picture of the band, right?
Yeah, the band up close. Yeah.
Not even a good picture of the band.
Yeah, they had. They had this. That was the cover.
Yep, that was the cover.
Yeah, but if you haven't checked out some Rage, guys, definitely check out some Rage.
Good old Carl. Every expense was spared.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. Even the band's name he fucked up because they were actually Rage. It wasn't Blind Rage, but the name was longer, and he just lopped the other words off and called them Rage, and they didn't even know it until the album came out.
Well, and they didn't even know
asshole.
They didn't even know that album cover until they seen it in the frickin' store. They were literally blindsided.
Yeah. Yeah. What were they? What was it? To be honest, it probably sounds better as just Rage.
Yeah.
But geez, come on, you don't do that without telling the band. It had another word after Rage. It's not Unchained, maybe Unchained Rage, Unbridled, not Unbridled.
Deadly Rage or something like that. It was 2 words.
Yeah. It had another word, and then all of a sudden it didn't, and that was Walter's choice, not anybody else's.
Exactly. Fucking Walter.
All right, Alan.
All right.
Use little boys room while you're doing it.
Sure. I'm getting to the bottom of the stack here, but still got a couple more to go. I don't know if I've shown anything from Canada yet, so we'll fix that. We'll go with Sacred Blade of the Sun and Moon, which is something I've shown. It's come up once or twice before. This is a weird album, but a cool album. It's got kind of a sci-fi, spacey theme to it. It's not a full concept record, but a lot of the songs, kind of tie into that, outer space kind of stuff. Really unique songwriting. The band is good. They know what they're doing. It's good performances. It's just one of those albums that's a little bit quirky. And as such, it's kind of hard to put a tag on it. But it's always been sort of an underground favorite from back in the day. And thankfully, it's been reissued a few times. I think the band themselves have put it back out once or twice. So it's not hard to track down one of these CD versions of it. But just lots of, lyrically, these guys would have fit in with, the kind of stuff, like John Cyrus was always, carrying on about with Agent Steel. They don't sound like Agent Steel. Don't get me wrong there. It's just that they have those kind of, same who's out there among us and traveling, around and all this kind of stuff. So it makes for a neat package of an album. It's just another one of those. At the time, of course, no, it never had any impact on the heavy metal scene, but still a good album. If you're looking for something that's a little more off the beaten path, but still is, really tight quality material, Of the Sun, it's Of the Sun. It's usually written Of the Sun plus Moon, which right away again tells you that even the way they write the title of the album often is a little off kilter. It's got a unique flair, and I can dig that. Darcy, do you know that one?
No, I do not know that one. It just shows you how many bands are still like out there that we haven't discovered yet. But yeah, I've never ran into that name before.
Oh, okay. Yep. Yeah, it's one of those. It's not deep underground, but it's certainly not tier 1 or tier 2 kind of band either.
So would you just describe them as straight metal, or?
Yeah, it's very much mid 80s, slight gallop to it at times, little Maiden, little Fate's Warning, but yeah, again, they have kind of their own quirky vibe spliced through it as well.
Okay.
All right. Darcy, do you have any more Canadian bands to show?
Yep.
Okay. Well, I'm going to wait on that one then.
No, I think you go ahead though. I think we're safe. I got a few.
All right.
Go for it. Ah, good one. Yes.
It's a banger. This is a radio promo. It's got writing all over it, but Sacrifice debut, Torment in Fire. I prefer Forward Determination a little bit more, but this is a raw, awesome, ferocious, killer thrash metal album from Canada. These guys were great, man. They were great. They kind of started to lose me at Soldiers of Misfortune. I've recently bought that, having never owned it, on tape. And I enjoyed it a lot more than I did when I saw them live during that era. But this is a killer album, really ferocious. You got Turning Your Grave is on this. It's awesome. Homicidal Breath, what a killer song. The Exorcism, The Awakening, that's the intro. Sacrifice. This is not a bad song on the album. Super feral, raw, harsh, killer thrash metal.
Part of the Canadian Big Four. Awesome stuff. Forward Determination is my favorite for sure.
Mine too.
Excuse me. And if anybody's interested, that Torment and Fire and Forward is being reissued by High Roller again.
Oh, cool.
The pre-orders are up for November, so if you I'm getting them because I only ever had those two on cassette back in the day. So I'm definitely looking forward to owning those again on vinyl. So yeah, great nice. Canadian thrash.
Very cool.
Yep.
Oops. There we go. Darcy, you're up.
Okay, what should we go with? I think we'll go with some. What do you got here? Well, I know you guys had mentioned possibly in the future we would do some sort of Saxon ranking, maybe with King involved. And
yep, there's talk. Yep. I still haven't started doing my homework.
I'm working on it. I've been making some progress on that. Yep.
So
damn it. This is where my procrastination is going to bite me in the ass because I might be the moderator for that episode.
Yeah, it's a lot to go through, but I'll save you a little bit of homework because this is one of their weaker ones, to be honest with you. This is Rock the Nations from '86.
Kind of a cool cover.
Yeah, no, it's pretty cool. You got like all the flags in there: Canadian flag, the U.S. flag, we got German flag, and you have the eagle in the background right here. So, but yeah, just not one of their shining moments really for me. It's got some, the good tracks are good. The shitty ones are, they got a song on here with Elton John called Party Till You Puke. And it's honestly, it's always been a turnoff for me, that song. I just
can't imagine why.
But, it's very typical of 86 AOR arena rock sound, and that's what this has.
It's no Tom Jones cover, but
yeah, for sure. It's no Tom Jones cover, but yeah, it's got the good old classic artwork from Paul Gregory, who has done so many Saxon covers, but
yep.
you know, not one of my absolute favorites, but I put Saxon almost in the category of they've never put out a total shit bomb, but they've had weaker albums, and this is one of them, but I still do enjoy it. There's some great tracks on here. So Rock the Nations from 86.
Okay. Looking forward to checking that one out.
That mid-late 80s Saxon is not usually heralded as their best era.
I've also heard the one with the girl taking a bite out of the apple isn't very good either. It's kind of glammy.
Innocence is no excuse.
Actually, I really enjoy that one. And I
really?
guess
some people, I've noticed some people do have a soft spot for that album.
Yeah, there's some really good tracks on there.
All right, Alan.
All right. As I said, I'm starting to get to the bottom of the stack here, but a couple more I can show. This one I showed not long ago for something, but I don't remember what now. Anyway, it is 86 release, US power metal, and actually getting into something that sounds more European-ish. It's Burning Stars, No Turning Back.
Okay, yeah.
This is not the original cover.
I like that cover. It's cool.
This is the original album cover. With,
why did they change it?
If this a slightly amply proportioned fellow looks familiar, that's Jack Starr from Virgin Steel fame.
Looks a little bit like Cozy Powell in that blurry picture there.
A bit, yeah.
Yep. Jack was kicked out of Virgin Steel for not being quite, hot enough looking to be the guitarist for their band. There were musical differences between him and Dave DeFay. So Jack did a solo album and then kind of got this Burning Star project put together. The CD I'm showing is the old Sentinel Steel reissue of the thing. It's probably been reissued at least once since then. But yeah, much better cover here. This is one of those just kind of hidden gems of 80s US power metal, and it really is leaning towards the European side of things, even though it's only 1986. Part of that, Jack's obviously, a really top-notch guitar player. He's got an excellent vocalist on here named Mike Torelli, who sings in the higher register quite a bit. He was a little reminiscent of Tony Moore from Thundersteel era Riot. Just, really can get up into those high ranges. You've got Mark Edwards on drums. You've got Keith Collins on bass. Jack, brought some guys together for this. Dave DeFay actually plays keyboards on here. So I guess, it was water under the bridge by the time this came out. Very good set of songs, which again, they're leaning into that neoclassical style of power metal just a bit. I guess the closest thing to maybe compare them to at that time would have been something like Hellstar. The really nice, fancy, intricate guitar work, the really good, high, but, talented vocals, not shrieky or anything like that, really in control of the voice. Never really hear anybody talk about it much. He did other albums back then and actually is still active doing albums these days, but I've never checked out a lot of the others. This was always the one that had the reputation for being the album, and it deserves that reputation. Doesn't get mentioned as much as it should. Burning Stars, No Turning Back.
So similar register to like James Rivera from Hellstar, like a high register, or
yes.
Well, not that James was high, but I mean James is.
He can sing high. Yeah,
he can sing anything. Actually, he's one of those jack of all trades guys. But yeah,
mm-hmm.
I'm gonna have to check that album. That one passed me by, to be honest.
It passed most folks by. I forget what label it was originally on. It's not like it was on a tiny label, but no, it was very much the kind of thing that you would just see haunt cutout bins and other things forever. Yeah, I just saw Aaron's comment there. Aaron, check it out on YouTube first. It may not be your cup of tea. I don't always know how folks are going to react to something like that album. It may not be in your wheelhouse, but I
want to say that's getting reissued though. I'm sure I saw that somewhere.
It could be. This is a good album too, and I maybe I'll go pull that, because if we're going to go a little bit longer, I need one or two more. And Steve, that is a cool album from this year, so maybe I'll go pull that for a minute while you guys work around, because I'm kind of at the bottom of my stack for now.
All right, I'm going to get into some crossover here. I'm going to start off with who I see are the kings of crossover. One of my favorites for sure. And the debut album by The Accused came out in 1986, The Return of Martha Splatterhead. Awesome, heavily metalized hardcore, more metal than hardcore, but it's in there. The best thing about this band is Tommy's riffs and Blaine's crazy screamed vocals. Absolutely killer. The album after this, More Fun Than a Open Casket Funeral, is a progression, and their third album, Martha Splatterhead's Maddest Stories Ever Told, is my favorite. Absolutely killer crossover, kind of thrashy, but man, they're just, the songs are so good. The whole damn album is good. Wrong Side of the Grave, Take My Time, Buried Alive, Show No Mercy, Slow Death. Every song is a banger on this one for sure.
Yeah. I honestly do not know that album. Wow.
The Accused are amazing. Great band.
It is on my list. What's else?
I would start with Martha Splatterhead's Maddest Stories Ever Told.
Was that later or?
Yep, that's their third album.
Okay, so which one was that one? Their second album?
Their debut.
That was their debut? Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
All right. Darcy is back.
All right. I gotta throw this one in.
Back for the attack.
I am back. This is I did a video, but this is one of my go-to Motorhead albums, actually, to be honest with you. Orgasmatron.
Ryan was wondering when that was getting called.
Okay, well, here it is.
Yep.
This is their first as a four-piece. We got Phil and Wurzel on guitar. I love this album. I love the sound of it. Always have. There's just so many great tracks on here, but my absolute favorite track on here is called Built for Speed. But great stuff like Claw, Deaf Forever, Nothing Up My Sleeve. What a great track that is too. But yeah, I love the Wurzel era of Motorhead too. I mean, they had good albums in all their early years, and then their the trio that finished up until the end. But this has always been one of my go-to Motorhead albums. Always loved the cover too. Love the title Orgasmatron. But yeah, check out Built for Speed. What a track.
Yeah.
Good album.
Weirdly enough, that was my first introduction to Motorhead. And that's such a weird album to try to get used to Motorhead with. I like it a lot. Yeah. But yeah, you play that and then you start hearing earlier Motorhead albums. And it's just like,
yeah,
what the hell's going on here? It was very confusing.
Funny side note, I was on my way to visit my friend Lance, who lived in Climax, Michigan. I was on my way downstate to see him, and I was on the main freeway just before his town, and I was listening to that album in my wife's Mazda 626. I blew the back speakers out cranking that record, and she was so fucking pissed when I turned the car over to her the next week. She was like trying to listen to her Duran Duran albums, and it's all...
You did her a favor.
What the fuck did you do to my car? Sorry, it was Motorhead.
Fixed those Duran Duran albums.
All right, Alan's back.
All right. Well, Steve mentioned it, and it was on my list of honorable mentions. So, yeah. Now here we're getting back a little bit more on the hair side of things. Bonfire's first album, Don't Touch Light. This is not what to put on your album cover if you're trying to appeal to, well, anybody. I don't know what's going on with this, but this was a German band that was operating, in a more commercial friendly vein. They always get compared to Scorpions, which my knee-jerk reaction is always that's not a great comparison. They have a more American sound overall than that. And they were very clearly vying for a piece of the US market. And, they were on RCA. They did get a little bit of a push to try to crack the US market. Never quite got there, but they did write very good songs. They, I like, their overall style. This album is a little bit short. Here's the guys in all their Germanic glory. Not exactly giving Kreator or Sodom anything to worry about on the home front. But just, very good at that, again, more commercial side. If they'd been playing this kind of thing on MTV alongside, Ratt and Cinderella and such this year, it could have blown up much bigger, but it just, even with, a bit of a push, it never quite got there. I actually like their next album, the one after this. Actually, the two albums after this are even better. But yes, if you're okay with that kind of, arena rock metal sound from, the mid and late 80s, Bonfire is one of those bands that is worth checking out. Nobody ever gives them any love, but I've got multiple copies of multiple Bonfire albums. May or may not have, ordered import copies of some of their albums back in the day when you couldn't find them any other way. I always had a soft spot. I guess the bands, the closest they came to getting big exposure, they're actually included on the soundtrack for the Wes Craven's Shocker movie. They have a really good song on there that's not on any of their albums. So if you're a Bonfire completist, you have to go track down the soundtrack to Shocker to get the song Sword and Stone by Bonfire. And then your Bonfire collection's complete.
All right. Well, I'm still on the crossover kick, and another first album, debut album on Restless Metal Blade. Is it Restless Metal Blade? No, the subsidiary Death Records, Metal Blade and Death Records. Convicted by Cryptic Slaughter. My least favorite of their first three albums. I always really, for some reason, gravitated towards Stream of Consciousness. Their third album, it sounds like it was recorded in a garage. It's got a very live sound, but I always loved the songs on that. Money Talks is their very polished, really good album, but this is just a fun speed crossover album, really fast and aggressive, borderline on thrash, but with that hardcore spirit holding them down. Very good. Like this album, like this band. They came back after a bit and put out an album called Speak Your Peace, which is not at all a crossover album. It's pretty crappy. One I don't own, but the band's still around. They're not putting out anything new. They're just playing shows and festivals and stuff. But check them out if you've not heard Cryptic Slaughter. Good stuff. Darcy.
Well, I'm running a little low, but I still got a couple of Canadian ones left. I'm sure you've all heard of the band Kick-Axe before, Vices. Awesome album. But so they did 3 albums in a row. They did one in 84, and then they came back with Welcome to the Club in 85, kind of a departure album. Then they kind of went more back to Vices on this one. This one's called Rock the World. And this was their last on a major label and their last album for years. They do have a 4th album, different singer, but this is kind of last of the, the original lineup, actually minus one of the guitar players. But this one is I don't know, it's kind of a sleeper album for me. I really enjoy it, but if you like Vices, I'll be honest with you, it's not quite as good. But Kick-Axe were always one of those bands that, on the Vices tour, they opened for some big bands. They opened for Priest. They opened for a couple other bigger bands, but they never reached any real massive height of popularity. But this is a good album still to check out if you're, searching for something unique. Canada's own Kick-Axe.
All right. Alan, you got any more?
Yeah, I got what do I have? I have 3 more.
Cool. I got 4 more, but 2 I'm not really that connected with. I just wanted to show them because they're kind of cool.
Yeah, sounds like we're kind of wrapping
I got
up.
A couple more for sure.
Yeah. This one, wanted to show. This is Sound Barrier with Speed of Light. This is a Metal Blade release.
Kind of a cool cover.
Favorite one. Yeah, kind of cool album. Kind of a different band. This is a band with, I don't think there's a band. Let me see if there's a band picture hiding back here behind the insert or maybe on the insert. Yeah, here we go. Yeah, different band. Usually when you think about, bands, that had, a black lineup, everybody talks about Black Death, out of the Cleveland scene. I've always thought Sound Barrier was much, much better than Black Death. I know a lot of folks really dig the Black Death record. It has its moments, but these guys have some excellent songs, much more consistent, in my opinion. This one is their second full length. They had a really good mini album in between the two albums. Born to Rock is just amazing US power metal stuff. This one's still good. The production here could use a little help. And yeah, I knew Aaron would not like that. He's a big Black Death fan. Black Death did some great songs, but they're not on the album. So it's like, why aren't your best songs on your album? Come on, guys. But yeah, this one just, really smooth vocal delivery, nice guitar work, leaning again a little bit into that, Hellstar or, more European kind of power metal structure here. Cool, overlooked album. The band unfortunately never went anywhere. Their first album came out much earlier in the 80s, and that album has a very different feel. It's been a long time since I've heard it, but it has a lot of non-metal influence in it. It's not bad, but it doesn't sound anything like what they did afterward. You can tell that they definitely got more serious about going in the metal direction after the first album. If you're going to pick up one thing by the band, get the Born to Rock EP. It was a self-released EP, but it's not hard to find. It's not expensive. And it's just absolutely excellent material. Great overlooked band. Never got their due. Sound Barrier.
All right. Back to me. I am still in crossover land. California's own Hyrax, Hate, Fear, and Power, their second album. Cool Pusshead artwork. I believe that's Pusshead. Yeah, I mean, this band, super unique. Fast, short songs. I mean, the whole damn tape is, there isn't much to it. But fun, fast. As this band progressed, they got a lot more, they embraced the thrash side of their sound for sure. And but these early album, Raging Violence and this one are classics when it comes to crossover. Really good stuff. Fun, unique, very unique sounding. Caton has always had a very unique screaming style. Very cool. Darcy.
Well, I'm running a little thin here, but I still got one band.
Thanks for correcting me on that, Eric. Mad Mark Root Art. Sorry, it looks like Pusshead.
Another one of those bands that falls into the same category as Kick-Axe, a Canadian band. I don't know if you guys have heard anything from Killer Dwarfs, but this is Stand Tall. This is their second album.
I remember seeing a video on Power Hour back in the day.
They were they originally were on Attic Records, and then they got dropped, and then they basically, this is a original on Maze Records, which is very hard to come by these days, but definitely need for a reissue for sure. But I love early Killer Dwarfs. They're just, I don't know, they're in the vein of Kick-Axe, or if you're familiar with Helix, stuff like that from Canada. They're right in there, but they had a goofy video for Keep the Spirit Alive, where they made their own albums. They had a plunger. They were doing their own vinyl. It was very corny video, but yeah, I don't know if you've never checked out some Killer Dwarfs. This album is probably one you should check out. It's pretty good, and their debut is really good too. You might have heard that song called Heavy Metal Breakdown. I think it was on that I don't know if it was on that. Do you remember that album called Heavy Metal Breakfast, where the guy's he's got a bowl of like steel balls, and I don't know. Anyways, it was a Canadian thing. Anyways, but yeah, check out some Killer Dwarfs if you want. And I think I got one or two more left, and that's about it.
Right on. Alan.
Yep, that's where I'm at. I've got two that I can show. This is a really kind of random, obscure one. Always kind of liked the album, though. This is technically maybe new wave of British heavy metal. It's borderline. It's 1986 again. It is on Neat Records, one of the bigger, more seminal labels for new wave of British heavy metal. The band is called War Machine. This is their only album. It's called Unknown Soldier. Kind of a unique sound. They've got a female vocalist. Her name was Bernadette, if I remember right. Very good singer. She, has a little bit of a waily voice, but it gives the song some atmosphere. And they're kind of going for a more atmospheric vibe here. It's still got a heavy metal framework. This isn't straying into goth territory or anything at all like that. It's not any kind of post-metal stuff. Just really kind of cool, slightly doomy in terms of the aura, not the style, but just has this very kind of foreboding atmosphere about it. They did a couple of demos, really never went anywhere. The thing, if there's one knock against the band, they're a little bit of a one-trick pony. This is an album, sometimes I've played it for folks and they hear the first song, they're like, whoa, that's really cool. That doesn't really sound like anything I've heard before. That's neat. But then you hear the second song, it's like, that's a lot like the first song. And then track 3 is like, that's a lot like the first two songs. So yeah, not a ton of variation from song to song, but they just had their own kind of neat, unique little groove. This is something I just got years ago off of one of the old mail order catalogs. The guy that had listed it, had this, weird hype thing trying to describe, their sound. It's just like, I don't know exactly what he's getting at, but it was only like $13 or something. I was like, I'm going to buy that and check that out. And I'm always glad I did.
It looks promising. The cover art kind of like makes it look interesting,
Yeah, it's one of those you look at, it's kind of like, that could be good, but I don't know. Yeah, it's definitely, I don't know if it's fair to call it new wave of British heavy metal or not. It's on the label. It's from the UK, but it definitely does not have the core traditional new wave of British heavy metal sound at all. The band is trying to do something different. Just a tough time to be doing stuff that's, again, not commercial friendly or very extreme. And that's where War Machine was at.
That one screams expensive.
I don't think it is, actually. That's a good question, Darcy. I will look on Discogs while Marty shows his next one, because now that's a good question. I'm curious. It's, for the longest time, it was like a $10 album because nobody ever got into it at all. But yeah, I'll find out while Marty shows his next thing.
All right. Another crossover, my last crossover release. I know there was others, but this is another debut. This is a reissue. I had the tape, OG tape back in the day, and then I went through a phase when I got the CD, I would get rid of the tape. But New York's Crumbsuckers, Life of Dreams, very cool, deep, croaky kind of vocalist, really thrashy, tight guitar riffs. They're very much a part of the New York scene for sure. Great band. Bomb is the album that came out after this. Beast on My Back, very good stuff. Always enjoyed this band. After this, members of this band went on to form Propane, which I never cared for as much. You could kind of tell the guitar work was similar, but they're a little more groovy and maybe a little more hardcore. But great guitar work. Like I said, very tight, crunchy riffs, and I love the deeper, croaky speaking style of the singer. Very good stuff. Unique, good stuff.
Yeah. I've checked that one out too. I wasn't really not much into the crossover, but I definitely want to check out that Accused first.
Oh yeah, definitely check out the Accused. Their singer Blaine is just insane and awesome. He's got such a great screaming style. He's great. So unique. Oh yeah. Cause for Alarm came out too by Agnostic Front. I did not pull that one.
All right, what do we got left here?
I didn't Power and Pain. I did not pull Whiplash either. I thought about it, but I didn't hear that album back then.
Yeah, we talked about that one too. Yeah, because Whiplash, I haven't, I don't know any of the Whiplash albums, but I'd sure like to.
Oh yeah, the first two in particular are fantastic. After that, I don't own any of them, but their first two are great.
Yeah, because they changed singers on their second album too, but they're equally as good, their first and second album.
Yep.
Okay, what do we got here? I don't know. I don't got anything fancy left here, but like I said before, it can't always be good. I am a huge fan of not early Crocus, but I love Headhunter. I love One Vice at a Time. But man, did they come out with a shitty album in '86, and that's this one right here. This is probably a lot of record company influence, very commercial album. If you're familiar with Crocus, this is, a lot of people put The Blitz as their least favorite Crocus album, but this is actually even worse. We'll put it that way. And why do I own it? I'm a bit of a completist when it comes to Crocus. There is some good tracks. I'm not gonna beat this totally to shit, but it's even the cover is really poor. And kind of when Crocus just became irrelevant, really. But I mean, if you only needed one Crocus album, I highly recommend a Headhunter. It's an awesome album, top to bottom. Even their one before that came out called One Vice at a Time, but don't start with this one, guys. Okay.
I had the Blitz back when I was a young lad, and I used to listen to it quite a bit, but
everybody had the Blitz, I think.
It didn't really stick. It was on Arista, I believe. It was on like a big fancy ass label, something.
That sounds right. I don't remember for sure.
Yeah, Arista, Arista label. And actually, when I saw Wasp for the very first time, they opened for Crocus on the Blitz tour.
Huh.
Yeah, and it was one of those classic cases where the opening band destroyed the headliner.
Wow.
No, Aaron, I do not have the first, and that was with a different singer too. Mark Storacci didn't come in till about the third album. No, and I've actually never heard the first two Crocus albums.
Okay, Alan, do you have anything else?
I've got one left, but yeah, Darcy's right. Headhunter is the one that you want from Crocus. That's another album, if I remember, a really great closing track. Isn't Russian Winter the last song on that one, Darcy?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's another hell of a way to end an album right there. That's a great song.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Last one from my stack. I wasn't going to show this because I've mentioned it once or twice in recent weeks, but since I need one last one, it is a very good album from this album from this year. The first Crimson Glory album comes out of Florida.
That's a good record,
and it is a very good record. I know most people prefer Transcendence.
I might a little bit more, but they're both good.
Yeah, they're both. That's the bottom line. They're both very good albums. I do prefer this one just because it has a couple of my favorite Crimson Glory songs on it. It's got Dragon Lady, which is probably my favorite, and Azrael. I always thought was underrated. This is when the band is still doing the full masks. So over time they kind of went from like full masks to like half masks to a little bit of like half-hearted face paint. Once again, it's like they went to a Cloven Hoof concert. It's just like, what kind of cheesy ass thing could we come up with to do? These guys have already got the elements tied down. But hey, hear me out, guys. What if?
And they had a hairstylist too before this photo shoot. They paid to have their hair done. They had their hair did.
Yep. It may have been done by the witches from the Storm.
Or maybe Raven came by and did it.
Yeah.
At least they didn't borrow any clothes from Raven. We can give them credit for that. But Crimson Glory, most folks are going to know it. Very polished sound. They're usually mentioned alongside things like Queensrÿche being the big one, Heir Apparent being another one. They're out of the Florida scene, so sometimes you hear them mentioned with things like Sabotage, but much cleaner sound than Sabotage had back then. Midnight, very good vocalist, tragic story, substance abuse, all of that. I'm trying to see which press got here. Yeah, they were on the same little. This was Par Records was a record store in the Tampa area that was also did a label and did some nice releases between early Sabotage, early Crimson Glory. They were the import for the first Pretty Maids EP before they got signed to CBS. Par Records got that out in the US. So yeah, Par did some cool stuff. So yeah, Crimson Glory is my last one. And just a footnote, Darcy, I checked on that War Machine. It's a sub $20 album. 25 bucks will easily get you any number of copies that you want on Discogs at this very moment. Okay. That's probably a fair price for it.
I got it on my list.
If someone, again, you might, I always recommend. I know some folks like to blind buy, and that's absolutely cool. But it is a little bit of a one-trick pony, and it's a band with a kind of a weird, unique sound. So it might be one to preview before anybody. $20 isn't much, but yeah, I always feel bad spending $20 on something that I instantly dislike when I could have checked it out elsewhere. But yeah, it does look like a weird unknown album that could be expensive. The band is so unknown soldier. There's a pun there with the album title, but nobody knows the album title, so it doesn't work.
No, I got it on my list to check out. I was going to ask you another question. Crimson Glory, they only really had the 2 albums, right?
3.
2. We're not going to talk about the third album.
The third one I hear sucks. I've not heard it, but I've heard to stay
I only have this one.
That's great. That's her second.
That's you're technically right, Darcy. They had the third album is called Strange and Beautiful. That is where they got, I think it was an Atlantic Records album, but somebody
was it? Okay.
Somebody correct me. It feels like that was the one where they did jump to a big label. I've got it pulled up right here. I can actually look at it and tell. It was actually on Roadrunner.
Okay.
My bad. It was much more available than either the other 2 albums had been. But it's a mess of an album. It's the album where they're having trouble. It's a 1991 album. Things get weird there in the 90s, and they're just having trouble picking a direction. They're trying to do some songs that will get more airplay. They're experimenting a little bit. There's a ballad on the album. And Midnight's got a good voice for doing ballads, so it's not like it's a complete train wreck. But it's still a weird album that most people will avoid pretty hard.
But studio-wise, Todd LaTorre never recorded an album with them. He was just in the band then. Like Todd sang for them for a while.
That I do not know.
Probably just in a live set. And then that would be after Midnight's death for sure.
Could be. They did. When they did the
where he got to start.
Yeah, the comeback album Astronomica. Midnight was supposed to sing on that album. They were working with him on that material, and leading up to it, I think if I remember correct, he got busted for DWI. And so it was quite clear that alcohol was too much of a problem, and so they had Wade Black drafted in late in the game to be on the Astronomica album. And you can really tell some of those songs, they're just not written for Wade's voice on Astronomica.
Was he drunk or was he driving with the mask on? I mean, that kind of kills your peripheral vision a little bit.
It could. Well, let's face it. If he was drunk, he might have had the mask on because it might have seemed like a good idea. But after you've had a few, I don't know. But some of those songs, Astronomica at the time, it got an okay reception, but over time, it seems like a lot of people are off that album. And a big part of the problem is Wade's voice just isn't right for songs that were written more or less to be sung by a different guy.
Yeah.
I wouldn't, it's not a bad album, but it's not, most people, it's one of those comeback albums that a lot of people just tend to forget about.
Yeah. So it's really not surprising that Todd LaTorre ended up in Queensrÿche with his range, because you earlier compared Crimson Glory to, they get associated with Queensrÿche, they're right in there too. So yeah, so it's not shocking he became the, lead vocalist of Queensrÿche years later.
Yeah, I was trying to double check and see if he did any recordings with Crimson Glory, but I haven't found one yet.
I mean, honestly, probably you only really need the first two Crimson Glory albums really in your collection, right?
That's what it boils down to. Yeah.
Yeah.
Lattori, I'm not finding any. Yeah, he did vocals with Crimson Glory from 2010 to 2013, but no recorded output is noted. So
then he went over to Queensrÿche. Yeah.
That would fit the timeline. Yep. All right. Well, that is the bottom of my stack for the night. So I'll let you guys bring this one on home.
Well, I've got two that aren't a lot. I got this album much later, but I saw it came up and I never really hear anybody talk about this band on YouTube. So this band appears to be from Voivod's hometown of Jonquière, Quebec. Is that how you say that?
Yeah, you did pretty good. Yeah.
That would be Death Dealer with Keeper of the Flame.
And they're still going, aren't they?
Oh, that's a good album. Yeah, I forgot about that.
It's a solid album, and it looks like they've had a bit of an identity crisis with their name because they're listed on Metal Archives as Death Dealer, and they've got one album that came out in 2014 as Death Dealer.
Mm-hmm.
And then they came out with an album in 2014, another one called Journey into Fear.
Mm-hmm.
So they went back to Death Dealer at that point. So I don't know what the fuck they're doing with their name, but they don't even know either, I guess. But this is a solid, is this a mind-blowing record? It really isn't, but it's pretty solid.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I mean, how many bands are from Jonquière? I have no idea. Voivod are the ones that obviously broke through. Death Dealer haven't. Are they still active? Yes, it says active. They've been at it since 1981. They've put out 3 full-length albums, a couple demos, a single, a couple compilations, and that's it. So not very productive. Do you want me just to run through this other one here too while I'm at it?
You can, but yes, I'll honor Rick's request because we have saved the best for last.
Okay, well let's just rotate through then. Darcy, you're up.
Oh, okay. Okay, I'll say this isn't the best for last, but it's one that's on our thumbnail today. I might as well show it. Ozzy Osbourne, The Ultimate Sin.
I saw that on tape and I don't have it anymore. I don't know what the hell happened to it. I remember liking it. It's very commercial, but I liked it.
Yeah, it's got if you're familiar with the producer Ron Nevis, and he did what else did he do then? Like he did Kiss, Crazy Nights. He's got that really AOR
shitty album. Oops.
But
you were kicked. Sorry.
Okay. I actually really enjoyed this album. It's got some great tracks. You remember that the first video, Shot in the Dark?
Shot in the Dark, yeah.
But I think my couple favorite tracks on here I really like is
Thank God for the Bomb. I always liked
Secret Loser and Never Know Why. That's my favorite track on here for sure. Yeah, not a shit album, not as good as Bark at the Moon in my opinion, or the first 2 albums, but not terrible. And we got a brand new Ozzy album coming out like a week or so. So I don't even know how that guy functions still, but whatever. We still got him around.
Sharon keeps propping him up for the paycheck.
Yeah, she wants to cash in before he cashes out, I guess. So
she'll cash in again after he's gone.
Oh yeah, for sure. There'll be reissues for years to come.
And all sorts of unheard tape stuff or whatever, demo shit, and who knows what.
Little figurine, little dolls, whatever. And
doll nothing. She will turn him into a hologram and have him performing on every stage across America every 3rd Wednesday.
Well, Ozzy and Dio on tour together in a hologram, and Tupac.
Oh God.
Now, my money's on Ozzy to be the first one that really goes full. They try to go full bore on for that.
Yeah, probably.
Yep.
You got anything, Alan? Or are you done?
Oh no! Just to honor Rick's request, yes, 1986 is the year that brought us Randy.
Yep.
So that's why I'm wearing this tonight. I didn't pull it out. We've had our fun with that on several occasions. It'll come back sometime. But yes, a small band in Europe decided they were going to make a single and put a carnivorous lettuce man on the picture sleeve.
He's not quite as lettucey on your shirt. He's not as green as he's supposed to be, but it's still
quite.
cool.
Yeah. Well,
it's a cool shirt.
Yeah, it's it's maybe not quite official merch because I'm pretty sure Randy never made any official merch. If they did, and I ever see it on eBay, I am like selling body parts until it comes home to daddy.
See, you've turned Aaron around on the Born to Rock.
Yeah. Okay. Good. Yes, it is. It is very solid. It's got great tracks on it. Yeah, that it's an amazing little EP. Very overlooked. Glad
All right.
you like it, Aaron. All right, Marty.
I'm landing on Chicago, Illinois for this last one, and this is a band I've seen once, and they were really good and solid. Singer sounded really good. The thing was very distracting was had a platinum blonde dyed hair, but he had it cut into, it looked like a Darth Vader helmet. And he was constantly like fluffing it and fucking with it as he was performing. It was so annoying. But we're talking about Damien Thorne, Sign of the Jackal, their debut album. This is the guy, when I saw him, his hair was a lot more, the bangs were cut straight across. It was very coiffed. It was quite amazing. But this is like traditional heavy metal with a little bit of speed metal thrown in. It's actually quite good with soaring vocals. Is it as good as Agent Steel? No, it is not. But this is a solid record for sure. Debut album by the band. I think this album's got like a 70% rating on the Metal Archives. Not that that means anything, but the subsequent albums that came after it have a slightly higher rating. But I enjoyed this. I picked it up relatively cheap. It was worth getting, and after seeing them, I had to check out some Wax by them for sure. So yeah, cool. I'm ending with this. I did not have anything to do with this in 1986. Got this much later, but it's pretty good. Yeah. Pretty
this
solid.
band came back years later and made a bunch of albums, and it was another one. The name always confused me because there were several bands named Damien, and then there was this one.
Yep.
And it was always like, that's a different band, right? I felt like I always had to double check for some reason.
Sure.
But yeah, that's a decent album for sure.
So yeah, let's recap here. Let's think about this. 1986, the best year in metal.
One of them.
It's hard to say. It's hard to say exactly.
Yep. I think a lot of people would rank it that way. You know, that a lot of people do have it at the top of the heap. I know when I've looked in the past and tried to really, line things up year by year, I think for me, I usually end up picking 1984 as just a little better than 1986.
Yeah. That's my other one. I love 84.
Yeah.
Maybe we can do that in the future. I would love it because, I don't know. But
you want me to, Simon, should I go grab my Sentinel Beast tape just to make him happy? Hold on.
Absolutely. If we can make Simon happy with a Sentinel Beast tape, we will do that because that is a cool album too. I'm with you, Darcy. Those 2 years are very, very close. You have a lot of just stellar releases. And again, it's a long list of releases. It's not like it's just that 2 or 3 of the biggest albums ever came out that year. I mean, it took us, an hour just to get through all the big name thrash releases alone?
Oh, yeah, exactly. And there's, and the great thing about this is I still discovering stuff. Oh, yeah, awesome cover. Gotta love that.
The lady singer for this band go on to form Detente, which is actually another Recognized No Authority is a pretty good album. I don't know if it's the same lady. I think it is.
I don't know. That's a good question. But yes, it's also not a bad album. I like Sentinel Beast better.
Debbie Gunn. Wait a minute. Let me double check that.
Let's see. I'm checking it.
Sentinel Beast.
Debbie Gunn was also in Ice Age and Snow White.
Okay. I think I'm wrong. I think that lady went on to be in Fear of God and Detente. Hold on.
Yeah. I didn't know she was in Ice Age. Okay. That is the same Ice Age I'm thinking of. Yep. Okay.
lineup.
Yeah,
Dawn
Snow White,
Crosby. Yeah. She was in Dawn Crosby, and Detente was in Fear of God also, who has passed away. Okay. I had the ladies mixed up. But yeah, this is good. They cover Phantom of the Opera, and there is a lot of Maidenisms on this. Pretty good. Pretty solid album for sure. So there you go, Simon. So yeah. Okay.
Yep. One of metal's, I think you'd be hard pressed to say it's not one of metal's best years. It's got to be close to the top for fans of metal from this era.
Yeah, 94 to 80 or 84 to 89, 90 is really tough to beat for me. It's just, I mean, that was the year I was plugged in at that point and just consuming everything I could find, and it was all exciting to me. And you know, obviously I'm always going to gravitate back towards that because that's when music was truly exciting. And it got exciting for me again in the Norwegian black metal explosion. And, you know, the death metal stuff too. I mean, all of it, it's all been great. Don't get me wrong. But,
well, and there's still so much stuff to discover. It's unreal. Like I'm definitely going to go down the Manila road later on after we're off the air. I really need those albums that you guys talked about. I really need to listen to those. And, Alex. Okay. You know what? Well, we did a ranking of these albums on this channel, but I did pull this. So,
that album was a shimmering turd.
It is referred to as Fight for the Nightmare by John Oliva. So I do have it. Didn't pull it this time, but yeah, definitely enjoyed 1986. I would say, you guys, if you ever want to hit up 1984 or anything like that, I am in.
Absolutely.
Like Marty and I talked about when we first before we went live, is just like I couldn't believe the amount that I have. I mean, we had a lot of crossover too. We really did, because you would show one and I would just set it aside because
me too. I put a lot off to the side too. Yeah.
Same here. Yep.
But I think I had 44 albums to start. That's pretty good. So
yeah,
it might be the year I have the most.
The ball's really rolling at this point. There's a lot of great talent coming out. I showed a lot of first albums. I mean, like this crossover stuff, it was all debuts, you know, and it's just, the scene was just like, there's a fire being fanned, you know, there's more and more bands are throwing themselves into the fire and making it bigger and bigger and bigger.
For the bigger bands we talked about, we were showing like, you know, second and third albums. So those bands had been around long enough to really start to hone their craft and long enough to influence those bands that were getting their first album out that you were showing too. So that, you were kind of getting the best of both worlds. The big bands were really refined and on top of their game, and they had already, you know, had the next wave coming up strong behind them.
Yep.
And you got to think though, and the major labels really were taking notice in 86. Major labels, a lot of major label debuts in 86 too. Whereas, you know, Metallica came from, that was their Master Puppets was their debut on Elektra Records, and, you know, Slayer, things like that. So, and I think, you know, they paved the way for a lot of bands to come in 87, 88, 89, and so forth. So,
yeah, this is a good point, Tim. We didn't really touch on any of those tonight, but those guys were doing stuff too in 86. Yngwie had, Yngwie's trilogy, I think, was 86.
Yeah.
That's the last Yngwie I cared about. I like that album. It's okay.
Yeah, I almost pulled it tonight. You can't pull them all.
Yeah, I do have that too.
Brian, this is my first Dead Kennedys I ever heard, and I loved it. It made me go back and get all the other shit before it. Loved it.
Good deal. Well, guys, I reckon we have reached the end here. Thanks to everybody for hanging out in the chat. And tons of good comments, tons of good albums mentioned that we did not get to, sadly. Someone just mentioned Bulldozer, and everybody forgot to talk about Bulldozer. Our bad.
Yep. The Italian Venom. And Darcy, as always, it was a pleasure to have you, my friend. And thanks for joining us. And everybody go check out Darcy, 6 Strings, 9 Lives on the YouTube. And we've got a link in the description. We have a link to Alan's channel, Let's Talk Metal. New episodes every Tuesday. Definitely go check him out. He's over the 1,000 mark finally. And let's keep these guys going in a good direction.
Yeah, I gotta thank you guys too for inviting me. I absolutely have a blast. This is it's a highlight for me for sure to hang out with you guys. You do such a great job on your channel, and people,
thanks, man.
People just don't realize what this takes, what this involves. It's there, even preparing for a live stream like this, it's 2-3 hours out of your life that sometimes you don't have, and but I mean, it's a blast. It's just simply a blast, and thanks again, you guys, and keep up the great work on your channel. It is one of my go-to channels on Wednesdays and Fridays, and whatever other one you guys throw in there. I really appreciate what you guys do.
Thanks so much, Darcy.
Thanks so much for that, Darcy. We have a lot of fun doing it, or we wouldn't be here, right, Alan?
That's right. We'd be off slaughtering dolphins like God intended for us to.
Yeah. So everybody, let's make a little goal here. 5,000 subscribers, and we will get Alan that dolphin tattoo.
Yeah,
I have offered that. Yes, we'll set a benchmark sometime, and if we reach it, I will live stream myself listening to Halloween's Chameleon start to finish.
That's better than the dolphin tattoo.
Come on,
and everybody can. I don't know how long the album is, but however many minutes that is, you can watch. I'll sit here and live stream comment on Chameleon.
I love it. Can I be with you on this? I'm gonna be your devil's advocate, because
Misery loves company.
I don't love that album, but I don't hate it as much as you do either. So yeah.
Misery loves company. You are welcome to sit there and watch my salty tears fall like rain upon the desk.
Well, and thanks to anybody that tuned in, all the other like-minded middle-aged metalheads, or younger or older. It's always fun just to hang out with you guys, always.
We got the older crowd here, and we're fine with that. It's all good.
Rick, there aren't enough subscribers for that to happen.
There's not enough people in the world to subscribe to listen to that. Yeah,
that doesn't. No,
not happening, eh?
Not for all the Ozzy money that Sharon has hidden under the mattress.
Well, everybody, show notes. Wednesday, the album club will be back. Jim unfortunately picked Lizzie Borden's Visual Lies, and I'm going to be coming home
against the world.
Yeah, I'll be coming home from Minnesota that day. I got a 12-hour drive. I'm going to try to be here in time. If not, Alan may have to turn the stream on, but
I may not. Well, I don't know if I'll. And all joking aside, again, my Wednesday night attendance is going to be pretty spotty moving forward.
I should be home by then. I plan on leaving at 6:30 in the morning, so I should be home by 6:30. So it should be okay. I should be good. But we plan on being there. We might see that fine young gentleman from Saskatchewan on as well. We'll see. I have to talk to him. See if we can butter. We have to have someone saying something good about this record, because I don't have a lot of good to say about it. Well, other than Jim. Jim likes it. So anyway, we appreciate all of you. Thank you so much for hanging out with us tonight and supporting the channel. We really appreciate it. And we will see you all next week. So take care.
Everybody have a good weekend.
Later.